Revenge of By the Numbers is brought to you by esports.bet. And right now, if you make with immediate haste your way to the esports.bet Discord, discord.gg/esportsbet, and you message the mod mail, say Thorin or Insight on Esports sent you, they will credit your account with 50,000 DJT, which is the proprietary cryptocurrency that they use to play in their tournaments, like the free-to-enter World's Prediction Series 2 competition with a 10 million USDT prize pool, covering things like ESL Pro League, the CSGO Major, League of Legends Worlds, TI from Dota 2, the Valorant tournaments if they'd been there previously, anything in FIFA, Rainbow Six, all the big games that you can think of. Basically, go there, you can play, instead of getting just the 1k to start with and top-ups that get you to 5, you can get 50k, an insane head start, and you can start making predictions and see if you can win some free money.
Chris is still in the picture. Oh, I'm still very much in the round. Oh, Chris, he's found 3. It's down to a 2-on-2. Chris, can he close this with an ace? Oh my God!
Gives him a chance at least, and this CZ kill could be everything. Finally, Zeus, he does something!
Looking for a second, he connects it. Oh, and he gets a third as well. Surely he's not going to pull this off. Oh, Caldera, the man, the myth, the beast.
Nairo, no help really, but he's still hitting shots. He's already got 3. And 5. And oh my God, Nairo! Unbelievable!
Hello, everybody. Welcome. We took a week off, but we're back with Revenge of By the Numbers. There's been so much going on that we have 2 pages worth of stuff to cover in the show. So it's going to be a chock full one. It's going to be a good one. But thanks, everybody, for being patient. And let's just hop right into it. Thorin, how you doing?
By the way, because I was just doing that thing where people don't know, because at events especially, right? If the air's dry, my nose gets really dry, right? So I always just use like a very basic cream that I would just put up like that, right? And Richard even used to joke like, yeah, I know what's in that fucking yay or whatever. And if you don't know this, right, this is actually a famous thing that morons used to say in the comment sections of my videos. They would say, I'm not joking, it's obvious he does cocaine because that's why he keeps such a fever pitch. Here's the problem, Semmler. If anyone knows anything about certain class A, schedule A drugs, right? Obviously, that wears off in about 20 minutes, an hour, right? I'd be dead if I was, because you know this, I can keep this going for 12 hours, motherfucker. Like, you watch this, within 3 hours show, I'll be at that fever pitch the whole time. So all you need to know is, it isn't, because if it was, I must just have like I must have John Jones level heart muscles, motherfucker, that can't be taken down by any drug. Or, like, fucking hell, come on.
There's no way. There's no
and
way.
Here's another thing, little spoiler and humble brag. Try doing cocaine as much as I need to do that and look like this. Motherfucker, I must have a painted up in my attic that's just worn out, that's just torn up, Exactly. Look at this shit. I could be 29 right now. Nah, 39, homie. Exactly. Them digits add up. Start on a good note, whatever.
You got the vitamins going. That's what's going on here. Yeah. It's all the vitamins. You're well hydrated. That's what makes the difference.
Exactly.
Hydration check, everybody. Get on top of it. Go touch some iron too. Get 8 hours of sleep. Start there, and then we can see. But yeah, dude. I mean, it's been a good couple of weeks. It's been completely mad trying to stay on top of some of this stuff going on though, because you're just watching yet another step towards just corporate gray.
Yep.
Just shag carpets and gray hallways and cubicles and everything. It's just going to strip all of the soul out of esports, one piece at a time. And it's just another one of those guys who's getting taken down now. And it's such a weird thing to watch happen. It's actually been a really surreal week where I just, when the news was breaking about Carlos and all that, and we're going to talk about it during the show, but like when the news was breaking about Carlos, I was just waking up like, man, okay, this is the demoralization in play right now, because I'm waking up and I feel I don't have energy. I feel like, man, okay. This really blows, and it feels draining to watch it happen to somebody else. Another one of the veterans, who's been around for a long time, who's just going to get yeeted out by these drama monsters. It's ridiculous to watch.
Oh no, here's the thing. I've got a couple of points to say on that. Like, one is, that refrain, you'll have heard it a million times, mate. It goes like this: Oh, don't worry. The pendulum's going to swing back any minute. It's not. It's you idiot. If anything, the pendulum is going to go to max, break off, and there won't even be. The joke is that what is at the very left of the pendulum now will become the new right. And there'll be a new pendulum that's where. If you don't know how this goes, you have never studied anything about history. You don't know anything about social dynamics. You never actually checked up on what was all that weird stuff they kept going on about on those YouTube channels in 2040. You never paid attention. You don't know that. By the way, I've seen those communities, the coding communities, some of the Linux community, they never came back from it. They were. That's why the analogy, if no one's ever heard it, is the cordyceps, isn't it? It's that fucking fungus that goes inside the little
ant or whatever.
The caterpillar or the ant or whatever. Yeah. It takes over its brain, so it moves it like a little puppet when it needs to, and then it goes, "Fuck y'all, you're the host." Eats it and just pops out of it with all the next shit that then spreads and takes over all the other ones. And if you've ever seen where like there was a little colony of ants where they're just wrecked, mate. It's like some post-apocalyptic shit where they're just like, they're all like mutants dead, like. One's just moving across the ground like that pendulum any minute, Semmler. Like you never just go back.
You're imagining like never does. Body snatchers or something where Carlos is gonna walk around the corner and be like, just try to suck our souls out or something. Because now, I mean, it really is like the corpse just walking along, shambling along, and it's going to be this safe, sterile environment that's safe to invest, and everybody's going to be super happy, and everybody's going to tune in and watch, and it's good. There's not going to be anything bumping the roads and all. It's going to be fine. There's not going to be anything that's going to potentially upset that apple cart that everybody wants to get an apple on. Definitely.
I'll give you a reason why, mate. I'll tell you the mechanism as to why this will never reverse course. And this is basically the canary in the coal mine that esports, what you loved. By the way, Carlos is the perfect person for this to happen to because he was the spirit of old school esports, trash talking, shit talking, the idea that like, even when you take an L, you spin it into some trash talk. Like, it's fun though. You're a little bit edgy. So people are like, ooh, it's a little bit dangerous, but that's what makes it fun, isn't it? Because then the whole premise, remember, of the tightrope walk is you have to be able to fall. There has to be a cost. If you know there's a net beneath him, not really that cool that he's doing backflips on the tightrope, is it? But if you know there isn't, if you know he's between two towers and he dies 100 feet, that's incredible to watch. But the problem now is this. Now we're in a world where all of that stuff has to go away. I mean, we've talked in past episodes, it's already going to go away for corporate reasons like China and Saudi Arabia and all the other things. But there's also another reason. And I'm going to really carefully phrase this because that's what I've mastered the last few years, being a lot more careful with my wording. So what I'm going to say is this, because of people whose entire mechanism of how they interact with the world, and as a result, their esports world too, goes like this. Whatever feeling is triggered or just produced within them in response to some sort of external stimuli, an idea, an action, a person, could even just be a person, Semmler. You don't have to have done anything, could just be the wrong person. Whatever feeling is created in them, they have to have validated by the rest of the whole world. And so as a result, if their feeling is, I'm offended, if their feeling is, this is wrong, this could be dangerous, then it doesn't matter. Let's check the validity of this, or, well, then again, concepts like personal liberty. Yeah, sometimes things have to be a little bit dangerous and a little bit actual things that you don't like, and there have to be like contrasting views that you don't agree with in order to provide a healthy scene, to have competition. No, people who must have their feeling validated. You notice it always comes down to things like, I don't feel safe, I'm offended, you're doing bad things, and then everyone must validate them. And if you don't, by the way, what you'll notice is like a little child, because what children do, they're feeling validated. And so what they do is, if you don't agree with it, then as you saw with the case of Carlos, there's no limit as to where it can go. It can go to the very, very end. You can have to step down from your job, sell your team. You have to maybe never appear as a public figure ever again. The reason why Carlos is also the perfect one for this, Semmler, is this. If we were doing the Anubis, the god in the afterworld of the Egyptians, where the premise is, before your soul can go to like heaven or hell or whatever, he weighs up your heart and what sins you have and how pure you were in the life that we live now, right? And the premise goes, if you remember, he weighs it against a feather, doesn't he, Semmler? And the idea is, if it's sort of even or the feather's more, then you lived a good life. You go off to whatever, they call it westing or something, where you go to their like paradise or something. And if you don't, I don't think in there they even had a hell. I think theirs was more like you just sort of like, it's a bit like the Greeks. I think you just like stays some like shit wonder for 1,000 years or something, or eternity or whatever. Right? Here's the premise. If we were doing that with Carlos, now every idiot, because they're just validating their feelings, would go, well, he's done a million things. No, he's made a lot of jokes and some really funny comments, and he's done things that were mildly edgy. If we were looking at actual actions in the world, who did you help? Who did you promote? What did you build? Like, what effect did you have on the people around you, the great esports scene? Then for him, the joke is the feather would instantly smash like this, and he would just pass through to the afterlife of esports, and he would be a bona fide legend who could never be touched. But it's the other way around, Semmler, now, because now, since only people's feelings matter and their feeling of safety and who they are and what they would like the world to be like, it's the opposite. If you do one thing that they, are you ready, don't like, not even that's wrong, you don't have to commit a crime, you don't have to violate a moral precept, you don't have to harm anyone. Just if you do something they don't like sufficiently, that's all that counts. Everything you did goes away. Everything you were goes away. They'll even take everything you did build objectively, tangibly, and say you never had any part to do with it all. In fact, you know what? It'll be better when you're gone, because this is also why the Carlos one's amazing. Because there's no team in the entire world of esports that is dead tomorrow if their owner leaves. Even Jack from Cloud9, I believe Cloud9 is such a great org, and he's built it up with certain systems and people's in place, and guys, they could continue on. They wouldn't be quite the same Cloud9, but they could be really good. Team Liquid
continue on. Yeah.
G2, I'm not joking. Bearing in mind, it all was from the genesis of the way his attitude was. He was the spirit animal of the team. It's dead, and with it is all of the rest of this shit. Like, yeah, don't worry. This show will be like the last fucking helicopter leaving Vietnam. We will still do banter. We'll still do some edgy stuff, but that's because I've had to. I mean, we'll get into this in future episodes when this stuff comes out. I've had to fucking perform miracles in finance and how you structure a company and who I don't work with. And I've had to do all this shit the last few years to get in a position where we have like one last bastion where we can hold out again. Like, wait, this is like fucking the Two Towers or something, mate. We're just holding against the hordes coming in at us at this point in time. Deep. Yeah, exactly. That's like what we're doing at this point. But unsurprisingly, eventually, we're going to have to retreat too. We aren't going to be here forever either, mate. So enjoy it while you can, because everyone going like, it's just a guy who's, you made an obvious mistake that everyone knows him. No, get that. You're telling yourself a story when you do that. Like, we'll get into all this topic today, but essentially, I know it's a bit of a dark note to start on, but don't think it's going back, because it isn't. Like, you've seen this, Semmler. It gets worse and worse and worse. And more of the people who cause more of the problems, and by the way, you'll notice this as well. Fucking brilliant, isn't it? You know what the Pareto distribution is? Like, basically, within companies, if people don't know, like 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. Spoiler, I'd say even less.
Square root of the number.
Yeah.
Does 50% of the work or something, something crazy.
I would personally say it's even less. Like, in companies I've been in, it's usually like 5 people just do 80% of the work. It's mental. And what happens is this. They're not ever the people who would even think this way, because they don't need this strategy to get through society. They're people who are based on competence and like relationships and goal and purpose. The people who aren't, and who can only get to the top by grifting, by playing politics, by social dynamics, by grievance studies type stuff, those people eventually cordyceps the company, and the company dies at the end. They go on, don't worry, like the insect. They go to the next thing and they start fucking that up. So here's what's going to happen is all these places like this, they're all going to crumble, because you're going to take out the Carloses and the Richard Lewises, and you're going to take out these, and Monte Cristo. He should be the top caster in League of Legends still, you morons. That's just how fucked up this scene is. All this stuff that could happen. I could have been with Flashpoint, working on those teams.
We have to talk about Monty as well, just because he's going to be, he was the precursor to this, or one of them, at least, to this exact situation that may be playing out regards to Carlos and G2.
But anyway, obviously that was a bit of a rant. Let's get into it.
No, but sure. But I just wanted to just to confirm again, the Pareto principle is, that states for many outcomes, roughly 80% of consequences come from 20% of causes. So the idea is, other names of principle are the 80-20 rule, the law of the vital few, the principles of factory sparsity. It's like 20% of the people create 80% of the value. And so that's usually, that is really how it goes, because the 80%, they envy those 20%, and so they will tear those people down if given the chance. And I think that's precisely what's happening in a lot of these industries, is that, and especially as it grows at the beginning, when there's no money, and there's only work. The people who are there want to be there. There's no money to be made. And so you're just doing it out of passion. You're doing it because you can barely scrape by and you barely make ends meet, but it's awesome because you're having a great time. Those are the people that build things that are awesome because it's just, they want to be a part of it and they want to be in the mix and they want to make things happen. And then once the thing, and then all of a sudden I think we've talked about this in the past as well on this show and other times as well, where it's just like, it passes a certain point and there's that point of no return where now it just accelerates upwards, and you kind of want to keep it at that point if you can, right? Because then it's still people that it's still people that that really want to make it happen, and it's just right. Everybody's making money, it's still good. But once you pass that tipping point and start getting, like in esports, into the VC backing, and then all of a sudden it's just more and more
shareholders,
arms race,
all that shit. Yep.
Turns into an arms race then, who's got more money and who can grift off of more investors to get more of a war chest so that you can go after those players, so you can start going after all these other stuff, and you can wildly inflate salaries and you can wildly inflate tournaments, because then your competitors can't keep up as well, because you had a bunch of smaller tournament organizers, for example, in CSGO, who couldn't keep up. DreamHack, Fragbyte, who were years ahead in terms of production. Everybody's loving Blast right now. It's like, dude, Fragbyte we were doing that stuff at the beginning, and they couldn't keep up. They couldn't make the money to keep going with the ESLs of the world who basically just got the money and then went up.
And just talent drained them all. They took all the PGL people. Here's the biggest joke of all time, Semmler. Because of the last two majors, everyone thinks PGL's some trash can company. The joke is ESL leveled their fucking production up by hiring literally the two fucking Vlad guys, because everyone from Mini is called Vlad for some reason. I don't know why. I wouldn't lean into that name maybe if I wanted to be like fucking left wing or whatever. But
that's the
then again, I don't. So anyway,
they're all about impaling
if
people.
you don't know, that's the joke. When these companies got the money, eventually they also just strip mined everyone else. They talent drained everyone over.
Yeah, that's how it works. But the problem is then you get the grifters that start coming in because they didn't build anything. But hey, there's money. There's money to be made here. There's money to get. There's money. I can show up and I can act like I belong, and I'll get paid a salary. And that's actually what has happened over the past few years in esports in general. CS:GO, we've gotten to watch it happen up close, but all of a sudden you have these people who come in who are envious of those who have actually created the things, and so will do anything they can when given the opportunity to tear those people down, so they can then keep the spoils, keep what those people built, but now they get to run it and they get to claim authority over it and they get to do things. And that's what's happened with G2. So it's happened with a number of companies throughout the years. DreamHack is one of them. Started out completely different and then just got its soul stripped piece by piece.
Oh, it's one of the best examples ever. By the way, there's another example. There's another great example, Semmler. I know it wasn't done by like people politically. It was actually done, by the way, by some Game of Thrones level red wedding shit within the guy's own family. The second Robert Olin, who was the spirit animal of DreamHack, left. DreamHack went to absolute corporate shit and was cordyceps like a motherfucker, and later just became some like fucking whipping boy of ESL and MTG. Like, that was a travesty, mate. That was one of the original companies that had its own unique atmosphere and spirit, everything.
And that's what happens when you really start to make the plays for the money.
Yes.
Because it was always about growing it. And that is one of the trends in esports and in the startups in general. You notice that, it's like people hope that they can build something so that they can sell it. And so
scale it up and just sell, yes.
Or scale it up and sell it. And then there you go. You made your bag and you're good. And that's pretty much what DreamHack became a part of after the whole Robert Olin fiasco. It's just like, okay, can we get to a position that we're big enough to sell it off? And then they sold it. They made their money, blah, blah, blah. That's usually how it goes. So, bit of a doom and gloom start to the series. But actually, I mean, I still feel like, the thing is, there is, like, so long as you can recognize what is actually happening, then you can make plays around it, and then you can keep creating the content. You can keep doing the things until until essentially it becomes impossible. But like, you can still keep doing the things. So it's all about
still time. Here's the thing: the good news. I always want to spin it into positive.
This little bit of this little tidbit of news, just about like how it's not all doom and gloom. Because Froskurinn, like right there. So talking about the queen of the woke scolds, who literally went on an unhinged rant.
I will survive.
And then dude, just think about how unwholesome that is to post. So there's massive layoffs in the company that just started up again, and that you went on this massive unhinged rant on that probably cost you an enormous amount of support in the community and just got railed on for days on end all throughout the media industry. And then you have the gall to post a picture that you somehow survived the round of layoffs. And so I think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, because it turns out that gloating that you survive around the layoffs, publicly on Twitter for people to see, is probably not the best move. And she went on to get cut as well. So You know, there is a little bit of justice, I suppose, in this world. It's not all happening in the next. There is a little
by
bit
the way, two things. One, I'll give you the positive angle. One, as Semmler said, it isn't completely over yet. I said that this was the death knell. It is going to die, and it is inevitable. It is, especially as it scales up. But importantly, in the meantime, there is still time for us to have a year or two. Who knows? Maybe we can stretch it out even more if things go the right way. There's still a few years left of some of these things that you enjoyed about esports, that were the pure atmosphere of it. But there's the thing that's key about it. You have to take what happened to Carlos as a blessing. Here's the blessing. You now know every fucking snake and rat in this industry. You know everyone not to work with. You know everyone who will turn on you, even though you haven't done the thing yet that they're going to do. You know everyone who is disloyal. You know everyone whose feelings overrule everything else in reality and must be catered to. So as a result, at this point in time, if you haven't observed the landscape and you keep working with these people, and these are the people you vouch for, and these are the people you work, then you deserve to get fucked. Understand that. Take personal responsibility. Because that's the thing I would say exactly, is like, it's actually going to all be about that. It's going to be about the idea that, like, you have to accept that this is the way it's going to be, and you have to figure out how you navigate around it. Like you say, it's not going to be given to you. It's not going to be easy. It's only going to get harder. But for the people who are legit, I absolutely think it'll be brilliant. And in this particular case, by the way, it's like I said on the past one. First of all, man alive, we talked about in the last episode, my timing can be fucking incredible sometimes, Semmler. I started that whole new social media strategy like a week before that. You think I wouldn't have been the one getting mobbed for a whole week? You think I wouldn't have waded right in there and said something? Of course I would have. Then I would have attacked people who attacked me, and it would, the whole cycle, the old shebang would all come up. The carousel would start going again, winding all up, etc. And we all know the way the Twitter thing goes for a month. And then, like, listen, I'd get great engagement on Twitter, brilliant. But by the way, it's not the Faustian pact I'm trying to sign. So that would have all happened, right? But in this particular case, you know what I said to you on the past episodes? The reason, the epiphany I came to was that thing I'd heard a million times. Sit by the river and let the bodies of your enemies float by. I didn't have to do anything to Froskurinn. Froskurinn herself. She wrecked herself by being who she is and representing the value she has and behaving the way she has to people within her company, her friend group, her own fan base, the audience at large. And in doing so, you know what? Even though I wasn't a part of it and no one in esports really was, everyone just came back and it turned out, not our survey says, no, you did not survive. Our survey says, you do not work for G4 TV. Our survey says, young men who like gaming and edgy stuff like women. Fucking shocker, that, isn't it? I mean, if that was what your whole thing was based off, the idea that actually secretly they don't really like women and someone's tricked them into it. Well, you know what? I think life and reality itself just told you, you are wrong, sir. And also, I did also, before I started my new social media strategy, I did create the ultimate, I won't say what politician is like this, I did create the ultimate best nickname ever of all time for Froskurinn. Froskurinn.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Oh, case in point.
I know. That's not even like I'm dunking on it. That's more like she went up for a shot and I just blocked it, that shit. And get that shit out of here, right into the crowd like Wilt Chamberlain or some shit. I know. What did you think about this, though, Semmler? Because here's the one thing I will say, just a piece of industry analysis. She wasn't actually the reason G4 TV failed in any context. It was already it was basically itself a dead brand that they tried to resurrect in some fucked up way. If anything, she was more just, I actually think, the scapegoat and the lightning rod for all the criticism of it. And it just made a one flashpoint, yeah, what a great term, where everyone came together through the medium of criticizing her, but essentially we were just saying, fuck G4, what even is it anymore? Like, she wasn't the one person that brought the whole thing down, guys. She was, if anything, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, maybe.
She's a symptom. I mean, the thing is, like, as far as I'm concerned, when you start playing these kinds of diversity games and all of that, when you start checking these kinds of boxes that have really taken over everything now, where it's no longer about merit and quality of the content, but it's about checking some diversity box of, like, we need X number of women, and we need X number of people of this descent and that descent, and blah, blah, blah. And, like, and then we need to make sure that we're not offending anybody, and so we're walking on eggshells all the time. Nobody can crack a joke. Nobody can have fun anymore.
Worst
You're not allowed to have fun because
ever,
you might be having fun at somebody else's expense, you know, which is usually how jokes go, because there's a grain of truth. That's why they're funny, you know. But you can't, you can't do that anymore. And so when you're already starting out like that with your hands tied, how are you supposed to do anything that's going to get people to tune in and enjoy it and have fun? Do it like while watching. Like, it's not going to be possible. It's going to be stale right out the get go. It's already going to be doctored and soulless. flawless. And so the whole Froskurinn thing, I think, is just, unfortunately, she is a bit of a lightning rod, and she kind of brings that heat down on herself. And just the way that she delivered it was so, it just hit all of it just, it's like nails on a chalkboard or something, where it's just, it catches everybody's attention. Like, oh, what is that? Turn it off, which is exactly what you're not supposed to be doing. They want you to turn on the channel, not turn it off. It doesn't matter if you're getting into the social media. It's like, if you're getting it, like, there is that saying, right, where it's like good or bad marketing is marketing, right, or advertisement or whatever. It's like, hey, dude, you're getting attention, but you can't, when you're already on the down and out.
Is the line yet?
Sorry, go ahead.
There's no bad publicity.
There you go. There's no such thing as bad publicity. Good publicity, bad publicity. It's all good. I should know that, because that was something that James used to say all the time back in the day, which was always funny. But that's the thing. It works if you're still on the up and up. If you're on the down, dude.
By the way, of all the people to say that, too good as well. Like, you know what, James? I think you've established that there is bad publicity. I love it. I know. Plus, to be fair, that didn't apply to a communist system. To be fair, too good. So
James is one of those guys too, who just got thrown to the wolves. I mean, he's done it all, but like, he just got thrown to the wolves, but now he's been laying low doing his thing. But I mean, dude, I remember back in the day, it was hysterical, because I think you would get lynched today if you made that joke. But way back in the day, even then, it was like super spicy, because he was on. But these were the good studio days. So maybe literally like 10 years ago, he made the joke about when Scarlett came out as trans or something, and he was just like, "Oh, good, best of both worlds," and like, just off the cuff, just
you just get away with that shit.
Whatever. And today you make that kind of joke, you're gonna get lynched. But back then, even back then, it was like, whoa, okay. But good publicity, bad publicity, whatever. It got people talking about it. It got people focused on the good studio, and we were rolling with it, right? So James is a legend. He's still in the mix. But yeah, I mean, it's the Frosk thing. It is what it is. I feel like that's going to keep happening. If you lean too hard, it's like, you can't be too obvious about it either. You know what I mean? Like, you have these people they're undermining on the back side of things, but you can't just be too obvious, because people want to be entertained, and people want to tune in and have a good time, watch a show, laugh, enjoy themselves. It's about escapism at the end of the day. You just spend all your day studying or working or whatever. When you're watching this, when you're watching TV, you don't want to be lectured. You want to enjoy it. You want some content to have a good time and just cut loose and forget about things for a bit and zone in on that. So you can, if you're clever about it, you can put your message into it still, but it's still supposed to be about entertainment. So the companies that fail to understand that are just going to keep dropping off. I always thought the most underrated, hilarious part of that, because the sad thing is, if people don't know as well, like, there's even elements about that weren't even legit in the response to Froskurinn. Like, I'll give you an obvious example. She has been openly a lesbian for a number of years. She's in a relationship with women many times. I think she maybe even, I'm not even sure, I think she might have even gotten married to one, or she proposed to one or something at one point in time. Really? Maybe this is a few years ago. And basically, she's totally open to that. And everyone in esports, well, I think they do at this point in time, knows that, right? But the joke is, because that was a mainstream audience who doesn't know who she is really, they only maybe vaguely know her as someone on G4, which, spoiler, wasn't getting many views. The joke is, loads of people's like sort of slam back on her was like, she's just mad that we don't fancy her. It's like, actually, I can tell you categorically that logically isn't something she cared about. Like, she actually doesn't want boys to like her for obvious reasons. Like, it's not what she's into, is it? So that donk didn't even work. It's just, look, she did set herself up for that. And obviously, like, how do random plebs know, right? They don't. But then the one that was really, really funny was when she tried to do the gotcha. Because here's what people don't really know about that, Sam. I'll be the esports historian again, shall I? Right? People don't know what sparked her doing that rant. Right, here's what sparked that rant or impassioned speech, whatever you want. It was like her network moment, was it? Like, give me this camera, like, damn sick of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. That classic movie from the 70s, Network. Go look it up, 1976, I think. Right, basically, what sparked that moment was that supposedly she'd done a segment like earlier, like the other day or early in the week, where she was doing some like game review or some discussion about like some game that was coming out, and she made some sort of comment where basically she sort of like talked about out of school about something she didn't really know about. Like, she said something like, this game developer didn't do this, or like, they'll never do this, or what, something. And then basically she was like factually wrong. And the problem is, if you know the internet and nerds, every nerd is like, well, actually, Konami in 1984 began as a company. Like, they're all those guys. So they're already ready with the Wikipedia. So everyone, well, actually, they're right. And because she couldn't handle it, she had to spin it as like, they're just doing it because I'm a woman. They're just doing it because I'm a woman and I'm not sexually like, gratifying to them. They'd never done this all at Olivia. Like, she was on some of that shit, Semmler. So this is the real hilarious part.
because what she thought was a gotcha that she even said, I think, on Twitter already, it was so fucking hilarious, was she even said something like that the reason she knew that people were just doing it because she was a woman is because they don't even write all of those reviews. They just read them. And that sometimes they were written by one person, a man, and that if he gave one review to a man, that would sometimes be well received. And if he gave one, say, to Froskurinn, it would be badly received. Now, think about what the gotcha there is. It's like, you guys think what I'm saying is nonsense. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm full of shit. I didn't even write what I say on camera. Like, holy shit, that's not a gotcha. What are you? That's you. I know you've just that's like you just called in an artillery strike on yourself. Like, that doesn't even work. I know. In that case, here's the real question. Why are you there? Like, I don't get it, mate. Because that's the weirdest thing of all about that whole topic is like, she's obviously an esports specialist. I don't really even know why as a general gaming show that was the move, except for the obvious things, as you said before, checking certain boxes. Now, one other thing I'll say is this, because it's actually Rich's Wrath, XH2K Rich, who came up with this, and it's cracked me up ever since he made me aware of it. I'm so grateful to this man. Like, you have to find the few spots of light where you can, Semmler. Because she came from League, and if you don't know, here's what made Froskurinn brilliant back in the day, and why I promoted her to the ends of the earth and battled the fucking shit League of Legends crowd that all said she was bad when she wasn't doing any of this behavior, is she's the only one I've ever met, Semmler, except maybe for Potter at one point in CSGO, who was trying to be the best color commentator / expert analyst in the world at a massive game. Not trying to be a host and an interviewer or someone who sets you up. None of that. Or someone on stage going, well, welcome on stage, you know, the big like Chinese guy who runs the event. No. She was trying to be Monte Cristo. She was trying to be me. She was trying to be the people who know the most about the game, Merlini and people like that and Daughter. She was trying to be the ultimate expert. And what made it awesome was, as you can imagine, like all of us, she had a lot of passion. And if she thought a player was like overrated, she would say it and take on the crowd. And if she thought people were playing in a way that was like the wrong strategy, she wouldn't just go, well, I disagree with this. It's like me. She'd go like, first pros, the most fucking boring team in the game. She'd give you those great firebrand takes. But here's what's hilarious. Because she's still got that in her. Because that's still the lens she views the world through. If you don't know Semmler, part of her leaving League, well, she later came back in a game that's actually a subsidiary of Tencent, the people who make League of Legends. It's a Pokemon MOBA called Pokemon Unite. So this is where you've got to reset the filter from tragedy to comedy, like the ancient Greeks. Okay. Swap the masks. Right? Swapping the masks over there. That's the only time you'll ever see mask on, mask off with me, mate. So when you do that, right, here's the fire. If you ever watch her stream or her Twitter, in the same way she would have raged about like double lift or something, or like, you know, what the fuck are they playing Tristana for? She does that. But the problem is, Semmler, it's like Mad Libs. When you make all the words about Pokemon, you can't take it seriously, mate. Like, she'll be talking about a game she played in solo queue. Like, this fucking Bulbasaur just won't get out of lane, and now fucking Pikachu's on my ass. Ganking me, Pikachu. And I'm a level 4 Gyarados. Like it's like it's the greatest parody of all time, but it's real. Like, I'm just telling you, I swear, just go watch it. Just go check out on the Twitter, which like, and this toxic bloody Charmander just couldn't get out of my bloody lid. I can't do it, man. It made it so, it just like, for a moment, it just brought me out of it like, there is still light in the world. There is still find the laugh. Know. There's still a good laugh. Exactly. Just check it out.
You know, maybe that is a good example of how you just got to change your perspective, and it's all good. It's all good. Life is just a comedy after all. Just a big comedy. Well, I mean, let's see what else we got going on. Because I mean, that was the Frost bit. We've also got. I found this bit of information that was kind of fun. It just lined up, kind of fun. It lined up with the ESL purchase. You know, the Saudi moving in more and more into esports. But there was a tweet from CIC Saudi this last week. We don't need to get too much into it, but I thought it'd be interesting to mention that. It's just announcing a bit more of like the plans to make Saudi Arabia the home of esports, and how they
this. Yeah,
the national gaming and esports strategy was launched last week, and this is just how, like, all right, so 2030's objectives, 2030 again, that date, but 2030's objectives: number 1, raising the quality of life, improving the player's experience, and providing new entertainment opportunities. Number 2 is achieving an economic impact. So they want to contribute to the GDP of, by about 50 billion and creating 39,000 direct, indirect job opportunities. And, basically they want to really focus on making Saudi Arabia a hub for gaming and for game development and for the entertainment industry. And so there's that pivot that we're starting to see, really starting to see, because it aligns up with Macron, same thing, where he's trying to get in on it now, where he really wants to pivot and try and make it so that, you know, France is more accepting to gaming and the media culture, the gaming culture. It really seems like that's going to be the next frontier. So again, it kind of just lines up with this purchase of ESL, or the ESL Face It purchase, $1.5 billion. That, you know, it's like it's clear that there's going to be more of this. You have the Abu Dhabi Gaming Group that just got put together and that's working with Blast. They signed a 3-year deal with Blast. So it's just that kind of little thing to keep an eye on, and that's interesting to bring up just to keep you guys up to date, because that pinged the radar last week. And so I mean, it just, you know, there is going to be more esports and definitely going to be more CSGO happening in that region.
I mean, just look at what he's saying about how much money, and because basically the key thing, first and foremost, when you see this and you're like, oh, the Crown Prince. No, that guy, Prince Mohammed bin Salman, is the guy who was said to be hands-on with the private public investment fund, which owns Savvy Gaming, which bought ESL and Face It. So that's why we made the point when that was bought, you can't even do the thing that people always tried to claim of like, well, you know, when one company buys another one, who can control it? No, he's saying he's hands-on.
Yeah,
he's saying his values and things he wants are going to be directly put through this company. So already you have to ask things like, well, how does he run his country and what sorts of policies do they have? Maybe ask what policies they have towards groups you claim to protect, who you claim you will put your life on the line in, and you must drive out people who don't belong in esports if they have even an opinion about that. That's pretty crazy. Have you ever noticed, by the way, Semmler, there's certain people who think they have rights and privileges, and you don't even get an opinion about their rights and privileges. You don't even get, like, it's not that you're stopping them. You don't even get an opinion. But then someone like this could come in and directly enact and fucking thought, contradict everything these people believe, and they won't say anything, because what they do, everyone's got to earn a living. Oh, except Carlos, except Too Good, except all the people that you could get your little dirty paws on and maybe throw some mud at. But when it's someone like this who you can't touch ever in a million years, and even worse, you're going to work for him one day, or you already work for him, you're saying nothing. Because guess what? That's what happens when you actually face power. You know, everyone goes, being in La Resistance or in the media is speaking truth to power. I'd like to see you do it once or twice. I've done it a million times. I've died in battle in a million battles to win certain wars. These people won't ever take a scratch, Semmler. They won't ever actually put themselves on the line. They just do it when it's safe. Like, they didn't really actually have to go after Carlos and use their power to destroy him. No, They were just one more voice in the crowd going, Barabbas, give us Barabbas instead. That's who you guys were. That's who you were. And you let those fucking scumbag Pharisees just rabble-rouse you all up. So look at what this guy's saying he's going to do. So he says that he's going to, this is a line people miss, mate, is the one in part 3. They're going to produce 30 competitive games globally. 30. That's all of them. That's making new games even. By the way, if you think it's bad now with Riot Games and the connection to chat, imagine if all the next generation of esports games are just run and owned intellectually as a property by this guy. Now, are you ready for the ultimate one, Semmler? Now he can, if he owns the intellectual property, just literally tell you can't run a tournament in this game anymore. You can't have a team in this game anymore. I'm shutting your connection off. I'm shutting your account down. So now you'll never be able to speak out about it. You'll never be able to work in that game and ever push back in any meaningful sense. And all the people who might have been able to do it will have been driven out already. So yeah, this is enormous news. People all think because, I'm not from that country, well, I care. The joke is this country and China are going to be the future of esports, and it's all going to be there.
We've already seen the examples of it, you know, with the Hong Kong situation with China and the people working for Riot. You know, it's like, do they ever mention that ever? Taiwan, Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'm going to get blacklisted if you even say that on social media. You just get blacklisted from the events.
You will get yeeted out. Yeah. So that's already the reality. We're already starting to see it, and so it's worth keeping an eye on. Just because, well, I mean, if you're aware of what's going on, obviously you want to stay a bit on top of it. But yeah, that is clearly going to be the direction. It's clearly going to be a bit of a competition as well between the different regions. Still waiting for Qatar to get involved as well, because you know you've got the Arab Emirates, you've got Saudi. Now you should be seeing like Bahrain.
If you followed football, they're going to be coming in soon, like you said. It's always those three.
That was like, there was a bit of news that I was kind of following today about the Danish national team, their sponsors, that they've released the jerseys, and they're basically one color. There's no sponsors on it, or the sponsors, everything is done so that it's all just one color, like color red for the jersey or color black, because they're like, listen, you know, it's like we support our team 100%, but we don't support the organizer. And so, you know, they're like the logos are there, but they all blend into the jersey. So you're literally just going to see, and it's going to look like a red t-shirt. No. And so it's like, all right, fair enough, I guess. Why is the tournament happening there to begin with? I think is probably the more important question, but you know, fine, fair enough. You're still going to be providing the jersey, but you know, it is what it is. The other one that I did, this was the one. This is the one that actually had me fucking rolling. Is the major is near?
Oh, love it.
It's just this Reddit thread. It just popped up out of nowhere, and it made my fucking day, dude. I was just laughing. The major is near, and for those who are coming to Rio de Janeiro, I will give some tips. So, number 1 tip, pay attention to your surroundings. Always a good tip on the road. I think, you know, that's a sage advice.
No, but that wouldn't just be sage advice if you were just anywhere. So like, you know, what he means there is keep your motherfucking head on a swivel, homie, because people are coming at you. Exactly. It's more like watch your fucking ass like you're in prison. You're like, who's that? Get behind. Whoa, what's going on? Whoa, what's going on? You know, it's more like that, isn't it? That's the vibe I got from that. Yeah.
All right, the next one was try to use taxi or Uber. I do not recommend using public transport. So also do not take the bus or the metro. If there even is a metro, I don't think there's a metro there. I think it's probably all bus. So just don't take the bus because you're going to be getting robbed most likely. The next one, be careful with valuables. Also,
don't have them with you. In other words,
yeah, just leave them in the hotel room, under the bed. I don't know, hidden.
The fourth one, my favorite.
This is the one, dude. And we were fucking, dude. There's one right next door to the venue as well, like a block away.
Oh, I told you. Yeah.
Don't go into favelas. So,
don't go in and fuck around. Or say, no, just don't even go in. Don't even enter the area.
Don't go into favelas. But of course, you know, the obvious reaction to that is, well, obviously that, you know, you wouldn't go into a slum. It's like, no, but just don't go.
No. When someone says that, why are we having a tournament next to a dangerous slum?
That's the thing, exactly.
I missed something.
It's a block away as well.
You know what? DreamHack Las Vegas wasn't that great. Wasn't a massive slum next to where you get murdered if you just walk through though.
Yeah, no. They murked you on the floor. The place is designed for that, right? But then again, you know, there you go. So hold on. The 5th one, your money is worth more than ours, so go to places that seem trustworthy. I hope that you're going to be able to judge the difference between the places that seem trustworthy and don't. Don't walk on the street after midnight. Bad idea. Gonna get mugged. Have an international.
By the way, here's one thing to say about that though, Semmler. Think about this for a second. It's common that you have these majors where you have 4 best of 3s in a day. Now you don't start the first one at 8 a.m. So here's the question. What happens when 3 of them are 3 maps and overtime and everyone gets out at 1 a.m.? I guess you just teleport to your hotel room, right?
Yeah. Listen, the criticism that I had, or the thought that I had is like, listen, he's absolutely right to say your money is worth more than ours. So go to places that seem trustworthy. It's like, okay, ESL, you've had a long time to plan for this, and your money is going to go a long way in Brazil. So if you are not pulling out all the stops to make the players and anybody working this event be treated like royalty, where they don't even, it's like they should walk from the venue straight into a bus to just go straight to the hotel and just like never have to interact with anything unless they want to. It should be that level of treatment. There
should be a guy in the bus with a machine gun.
That too. Yeah, no, that's.
Oh no, wait, sorry. Let me just correct that.
Is the machine gun
from ESL though? From ESL, because there might be anywhere, but from ESL though, there should be a guy with a machine gun.
They just passed that law over in Brazil where it's like you could. There's so many muggings. There's so many muggings in that place right now where people pull up on scooters and rob you, or just rob you in the street, that you can literally hit those people with a car and you will not get charged with manslaughter or murder, because there's just so many of them that they had to find ways to deal with it. And so that's one thing. So I was just like, just don't leave your car. You know, actually just, you know, whatever car you find, rent a car and never leave your car, and then you can just do what you want. Mega dark, but whatever. That was you know, enjoy. I really wonder how many people are going to travel down to Brazil for the major. If there's going to be a lot of international attendance, or if it is just going to be Brazilian fans the entire time through. Because if that's something to consider, if you need to have a warning on the front page of Reddit telling you, hey, by the way, this place is dangerous, it may not be the best place for an international audience to go.
Here's the thing: I'll spin it like no one ever does and connect 2 topics. Right? If people see that a certain influencer hasn't even come into esports, but they pretend he did because he appeared in a Twitter video with someone famous in esports. They go, no, you can't. The sky is falling. He cannot be allowed to come into esports. He doesn't belong in esports. Everything he stands for would be wrong. Right? If we're going to do that and project the idea that that guy, even coming into a video frame, it harms and endangers the whole esports community, how could we not inform anyone attending an event things like, you might be murdered if you walk into the wrong street. Do not in any context have expensive things on you that someone might see and understand you are a foreigner. Don't stop at certain traffic lights. Here's one, Semmler. I said it on Twitter the other day. I was in another situation in my life where I happened to meet someone Brazilian who is an expat in a different country. And so I never brought up esports. What I said to them was, oh, I actually have known a lot of people from Brazil. And what's weird is they all have a story that if they're in major cities like Rio and Sao Paulo, they say there's literally certain streets where if you're driving in a car and the light changes to red, you just take your chances and you go through on red. Because if you stop, people with a gun and a knife step out, they either rob you just from the car, they either carjack you, or there's third options that get even worse. And they literally, Semmler, like this happened to me 20, 30 times, looked me dead in the eye and were like, oh yes, that is how it is. Like, I could show you videos now of this. There are certain areas, even Brazilians know you do not stop. Like, the idea you don't put that into like an email to everyone who might buy tickets for the event if they're a foreigner. The idea you don't even tell by the way, Brazilians, what if there's some guy coming from some other place who doesn't know what Rio's like? He doesn't know where the favela is in that place, which also I was told by a fan 2 years ago when they announced this event in 2020, that exactly that. He told me, oh, the worst thing about it being Rio is that actually right in the center of the city, there's a favela. It's not like you have to go out to some mountain area where like, you know, you're way out the boonies. No, in this case, it's right there. It's you could genuinely take a right when you should have taken a left. And next thing you know, it's over for you, isn't it? All of a sudden, it's like walking in the wrong fucking Wild West town, isn't it? All the shutters are just going up. You're like, oh, what the hell? And then you just hear like that. Hey, from around here, you boy. Like, oh my god, yeah, exactly. Fala galera, gringo. Like, what? You want to hear that fucking sound, and then you turn around really quickly. It's like fucking when Batman in that Dark Knight Rises was going to meet Bane, wasn't it? He turns around that big thing. Mr. Wayne, foreign gringo. You thought you merely adopted cancer. I'm toxic from birth. Like, mate, exactly. Oh, your jewels and your foreign card. This will be of great use to us. Thank you. We'll use them kindly. Whatever. Like, I'll give you a fucking break. I was wondering which would break first, ESL's attendance record or your back. Like, give me a fucking break. I know.
I think that ESL at this point, they're just like, listen, there's not going to be any foreign fans traveling.
I think they just think it's all Brazilians. I know.
Yeah. Fans. And then, just give it up. It's just going to be this way. And leave it at that. And, fine, fair enough. I guess they committed to it and they just have to go through with it. Even though things are spicy in Brazil and there's a massive election going on and there's all sorts of stuff going on. So it's going to be interesting to say the least once this starts kicking off.
Also think about this logic, Semmler. Every time I try to explain that, people go, well, it's obvious you're just biased against Brazilians, right? Think of the reason why. It's because tens of thousands of them told me over like a 10-year span they were going to kill me. So it's not like I'm taking a whataboutism. Like, I'm actually taking the initial reason that they hate me and I'm explaining why. Anna, give me a fucking break.
You can't, no, you can't talk to people.
Because I had the sin of predicting that Luminosity Gaming, who hadn't won a map ever with that lineup, would lose to NIP and Envious face at stage 3, DreamHack Winter 2015. How fucking dare I? As a result, I should be killed, apparently.
Well, just don't
Seems
go
a bit
Brazil.
harsh. You know what? Reddit downvotes don't feel as bad when people want to kill you instead. You go, what?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Just hit that downvote button at all.
Too much. It's fine. Not going to lose too much sleep. I mean, that's like some of the general news. I think we could touch on this Carlos saga. I'm probably not going to get too much into like the beginning stuff. I'll just give a quick recap of what happened. But there were some developments that happened recently that kind of got my attention, and I was kind of curious. I wanted to get your thoughts on it too, because if this is the case, it's not the first time that Riot have pulled something like this. So for any of you guys who have been living under a rock, actually. Already, I'll say that if you need to get caught up on what has happened with G2 and Carlos, there is an episode that covers a lot of it in detail. It's the 4 Horsemen episode that was done with Monty, Richard, and Thorin and Lauren.
Yes,
I believe her name was
Lauren Flanagan.
There you go, Lauren Flanagan, who joined to give insight on the agent side of things, the agency side of things. But they covered this topic a bit there. Already good show. Glad that it happened. Gave different perspectives on the matter. And so I thought that you came in from the top rope. You did a good job with the Andrew Tate bit. If he showed up with $1 billion, would it be different? And I was like, yep, that's
a hell of a line,
right there. That's the fucking line. Drop the mic and wrap it up, because you know it wouldn't be the case. But Andrew Tate show, Andrew Tate, we don't even know if Carlos was partying direct. Like Carlos just posted a video where he's in a group at a club, and Andrew Tate apparently happens to be a part of that group. And Carlos posts this video thinking, hey, whatever. He pushes the line, and he's going to push the line. And he posts edgy things. He's going to make it happen and see what he can do about it, right? Well, it turns out that the internet, of course, chooses this to blow up on. And the usual suspects start coming out of the woodwork, along with.
And it acted like the video was him turning to Andrew Tate, going, "You will be the messiah of my new esport."
Yeah,
no, like you say, just turn the video. He's in it for like 2 seconds himself. It almost looks, by the way, if you don't know, like Carlos is like just angling in, like trying to get a shot behind like a hot girl or something who's not even with him, like hover-handed. That's almost the vibe you get. Is it? You don't even know from the video if he even knows him.
The vibe that I got was that it was somebody else who was just kind of like doing that pan to record, like the group. So it's like, are they part? Like, you don't even know.
Like he did imply, obviously the edgy joke was he put like, we're celebrating G2 winning the world championship. He did put some line like that, didn't he? To be the body, of course. Of course.
Dude, one thing. All right, so that's the situation. The outrage mob kicks off, of course, because it was a slow news week, so they needed something to get pissed about. And G2 and Carlos just happen to be in that sort of scenario where you're up against the wall, and it's the question of whether you placate the mob, even though there is no placating the mob, by giving one of the corporate PR answers, one of the false apologies that everybody knows is false, with two brain cells to rub together. Everybody knows that those are false apologies when they're made, that it's PR. But or do you just stick to it and you go through? Well, turns out they actually do give the PR answer, and he's forced to give a couple of tweets as well on his own personal account, where it's also it wasn't super clear. I mean, he was like apologizing, but it didn't sound like he was apologizing. It sounded like he was trying to hedge a little bit. And it's like, fine, fair enough. I mean, listen, we all know you got a gun to your head. You're not doing this because you want to. You're doing this because somebody's told you that you have to, or that you need to do this to calm the situation
as the rest
down.
of the story played out, it was implied like it's no longer his reputation. It's like the fate of G2, the team existing, almost weighed on this angle, which, by the way, is a common tactic of these people who try to take you down. They just look, right, are you ironclad? Very few people are, by the way. Most people will break individually. They'll feel bad. But if you can withstand the storm, they go, right, what's the pressure point in this guy's life? Is there a woman that he's with? Is there a colleague he's with? Can his company be attacked? What about the people who work for him? And they'll just keep prodding. And then when they find that pressure point, then the question becomes, are you willing to let that pressure point cave in, or will you just cave? And in this particular case, that's what kind of happened, right?
So this is precisely what happened. And actually, I'll give you a quick read of what the tweet was, although where's the follow-up? Okay, I'm missing, it was one or two, and maybe the second one was taken off.
The follow-up was the one where basically, he never even mentioned Andrew Tate. Just as an abstract principle said, like, no one ever police, who I'm friends with or something like that, right?
So it's so basically his reaction is, nobody will ever be able to police my friendships. I draw my line here. I party with whoever the fuck I want. And it's like, fine, fair enough. You party with it. That's the other thing as well. It's like, I party with it's like, dude, the number of people we've partied with over the years, are you going to say that every single person you've partied with is a friend? It's like, no. Like maybe it's just somebody you met at the party, whatever. Who cares? Like, you'll never see them again. But
he even took from that tweet the way he phrased it. Like, notice he didn't go, Andrew's a friend of mine, I'll personally vouch for him. The way he phrased it was exactly, think of the personality of people like Carlos and me. It was like, look, whether he's my friend or not, it's none of your business. But that's the point. It's none of your business. That's what I took the tweet as.
Exactly. But everybody, of course, including the guest on the Four Horsemen, the Laura, she mentions, she says that at that point, because he brought G2 into the brand, because he said this is celebrating G2, now he's aligned himself with the G2 brand. And so that brings G2 into it. And that's what makes this a big public thing, is that it's no longer just Carlos, even though this really is just all about Carlos. But, they can use that as an excuse now to say, oh, but no, he involved G2. So it's not just about Carlos. Now we're thinking about the G2 brand, and he's responsible for the G2 brand, and he has to behave himself better. Whereas if he had not mentioned G2, and this had just been like some random video of him, it could have been a totally different situation. But because he's so closely tied to G2, this is where it winds up. So The apologies. Apologies.
No one will ever be held to that standard that they just established right there with that President Semmler.
Of course
by
not.
that logic, by the way, remember, by that logic, everyone who works for ESL and everyone who works for Riot is complicit in all of the crimes and evil statements of everyone who ever was at the top of the companies. That's exactly, by the way, the position that nearly everyone criticizing Carlos is in, that they're within those circles. But they're going to hold him to a precedent that now everyone in G2 can lose their job, lose their livelihood, is a piece of shit unless they all come out against Carlos. But these same people, what do they do, Semmler, when you tell them, do something about ESL and Saudi? I got to earn a living. Again, no one in G2 does, though. That's what I mean. What they did in this whole thing is continually set up standards that will never be applied to anyone except the designated bad man, who you'll notice will always be a certain demographic, on a certain political end of the spectrum, on a certain, like you said earlier, resentment matrix. It's always going to be someone who's just escaping the bucket. It's the crab that's almost over the edge that you pull down. You don't just pull the other one next to you. You're all reaching up for the one there to pull down. And that's the key reason that metaphor is so brilliant, the crabs in a bucket. Because it's not like you grab him and go up with him. You just pull him down to where you are. That's why it's about resentment. You're right. Like, I thought Richard nailed it in his article, because what Richard made the key point was, whether or not you think the Andrew Tate guy's bad or not, whether you think that was a big mistake, whether you think the PR thing, whether you think companies should have to face these consequences, the point that Richard made, it was so obviously true, is that really, these people were already seething and waiting, wishing Carlos would do something they could attack. And the worst thing is, by the way, lots of them have tried this for years. Oh, that joke was so over the line. Like, oh, he's just actually like, he's playing with fire. He's
critical mass.
Yeah, but the problem was they could never quite get it to land, like you say, because enough people would go, it's a joke, it's Carlos, come on. And the problem was, when they saw initially that it was landing and then it was sticking and they had a foothold, that's why nothing he said. Because here's the most sinister part about that story, dude. I want to get your take on this. Is the notion that you aren't even allowed to do a fake apology in which you say the things they want to hear. At that point, if then go, but I infer from this that he might not totally believe it. So it is literally now about thought crime. We must now break Carlos in his mind like some fucked up dystopian sci-fi movie. We must know, Semmler, that he literally for himself loves Big Brother. We must know that he literally does see 5 lights instead of 4. It's not enough to even say you do. You have to actually believe it. And only once you have been totally broken, then you can continue, because spoiler, there isn't a you left anymore. You've now become an empty vessel for what they want and driving their agendas and things that they want to say. And for that point onwards, this is why actually Carlos had to do what he was going to do. You have to leave completely. There's no way back once you take a step down that road. Because as you saw, he did try half bending the knee, didn't he? And what he got him, mate, like Ned Stark, was his fucking head lopped off.
Well, it's I mean, I'm trying to find it, because it's a quote that I like, but I'm trying to remember precisely who it was. It was No, it's one that I've mentioned in the past where everything. I think it was Cardinal George of Chicago, but everything is. We live in a world where everything is permitted, but nothing is forgiven.
Yes.
And so, if you live in that world, then it doesn't matter. You cross the line, so you're encouraged to cross the line at all turns. But if you cross the line that arbitrarily that day they decide is the line that's verboten to cross, well, then that's it. There's no redemption possible for you. You've crossed the line, even though the line is completely arbitrary, and it really depends on the day and who decides what the line is. It doesn't matter. Once you cross that line, that's it. Then you're done, and there's no possible. There's no possibility of redemption. There's no possibility of having.
You're always the guy who did that thing. Richard said it best.
It's that apology. It's like apologies. There's no redemption, and that's a real problem in a sort of scenario where it's just like people make mistakes. People are fallible. They make mistakes. You need to be able to have redemption in order to have a society. Because if everything you do gets held against you forevermore, you're fucked. There's no coming back from that. Then you're just you are the crabs in the bucket. You're constantly going to be pulling everybody back. And so instead of there being a possibility of redemption and getting out, you're always going to be pulled back into the envy and the pride and all this horrible just judging everybody else. Weird. It's like I've heard this somewhere before.
That's
Dante,
how you know.
He was onto something here.
Yeah, dude, but, that's how you know, though, that's what they want. Because look, here's the thing. You can always tell by the outcome that is desired by people's actions, what their technique is, what their strategy is. So here's the thing, Semmler. If the real strategy was Carlos is one of the like founding people and the builders of esports, he's a massive figure. He's someone who can have massive influence over people. If the real premise was he just did something a bit too naughty or a bit too over the line and we need him to be appropriately punished, then as you say, the entire approach would be rehabilitation. Because remember, you can never replace a Carlos. You can't just suddenly grow another CEO that's just as good as Carlos and does all the... No, we need him. So what you would do is if you were a good faith individual who could ever accept an apology, Semmler, you'd not only accept it, but you'd, even if it was a fake one, the reason you'd accept it is this reason. Because what you'd want is to, again, allow the mob to subside. And then what you would want to do is this. You'd want to actually go to Carlos in good faith and go, look, we come from totally different perspectives and different opinions, and I have a different life experience to you, and I've seen or heard different things about this person you haven't. So let's have a talk about it. Maybe let's even have a conversation about it. Let's ask why you thought this was... That's what you'd want to do. You'd want to like actually educate the person. You'd want to find out, like, is there a side they haven't seen to this? You'd want to actually find out things like, what were you really even intending when you did that? Like, let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure out, did something go wrong somewhere? Can we have a conversation about this? Can we all learn from this? And make... No, what they wanted, Semmler, was exactly what they ended up getting. They wanted his head. As you say, he could never be redeemed. They'll say his apology was a bad faith apology. It was bad faith to imply they could ever accept an apology. As I said, they didn't want an apology. They wanted revenge, and then they wanted unconditional surrender. Now, if you don't know, by the way, look this up in history. Do you know how rarely ever in history, except in the eras when they just didn't even do surrenders and they just took everyone and killed them, made everyone slave? Yeah. You don't ever do a scenario where you tell someone you must unconditionally surrender, because whether or not you plan to violate them or not, it breaks their spirit as a people. It breaks their identity, because what they're saying when they unconditionally surrender is, I'm at your mercy. You can do anything to me. You can utterly out, because remember, unconditional means there's no terms to my surrender. I won't
now
even
we've
say
got
it.
hentai. Great.
Yeah,
Now
I won't even say in this case you can come in and you can take over the country and I surrender the military and I won't fight anymore and we'll pay you reparations, but there's a limit. Like, for example, you have to like ensure the safety of some of these people. You have to show that you won't like punish us unduly. No, unconditional surrender means you just actually bow your head and you have to just hope they don't lop your head off, right? That is, if you want to go to that level, then the person's action has to be so extreme that that's appropriate. And it obviously wasn't. And here's the craziest angle. Here's another angle people missed, Semmler, because I just didn't want to go into it too much on that show because other people didn't know what I was talking about. The craziest angle of all is this, Semmler. I've got an amazing example from the same week or so involving Carlos that shows the hypocrisy of the whole industry, right? You might not remember this, but you know when the whole NEOM thing first started and introduced to Saudi Arabia and the Public Investment Fund, it was in 2020, and it was to do with LEC initially, right? Then we were involved because after that it was Blast, wasn't it? They were going to get sponsored by NEOM and they were even going to like partner with them. And what people don't know is this: people like me and others said publicly, because when it was happening in League of Legends, people said to Carlos, who was obviously a very vocal public CEO, who might reply to your tweet, unlike any of these other people, because he's trying to be authentic. They said to him, basically, like, how can you, bear in mind you're not just some corporate shill, how can you go along with this, Carlos, and be representing and partnering with people who are evil, essentially, right? And Carlos himself replied in a tweet and said something like, you know, like, of course I would never, like, work with people who are into evil shit like that, or something like that. Like, it's some tweet like that, right? And what happened was it did get cancelled in Blast. I even heard teams put pressure on as well as talent. Now, he actually was getting roasted the week before this happened, but people don't know it because it wasn't a massive story. Because this is, I think, how we met Andrew Tate. I believe he was in Dubai, Semmler. He was in Dubai or the Middle East at some sort of a business conference where he was speaking and even took a photo, which I don't think was on his social media, I think it was on someone else's, where he was with a bunch of very wealthy Middle Eastern businessman type figures who might be involved with things that might be potentially dodgy with women. Some of them might even have their own group of women who might have a special association with them that you're not allowed in the West, right? How was that not the front page story? Why was that not what got him cancelled? Why was that not anything anyone gave a fuck about? But then he just went over essentially a few days later to a different room and raised a bottle with a guy who's been too edgy on the internet and said he might do or believe things that those people actually do and implement on their society, that's what gets you cancelled. That doesn't belong in esports, and that is evil. It's like I said on Four Horsemen. When you say, I'm going to judge what doesn't belong, it infers everything you won't judge and you allow is something that belongs. That is a direct logical inference.
Yes.
And so you don't ever have to come out and say, I love Saudi Arabia and how they treat women. Your actions and what you voted with, what you care about and what you fight for shows if you believe in that or not.
That's precisely it.
Isn't that wild? No one knows
it just
that
goes back
detail,
around
dude.
to skin in the game, man. It just comes back around to skin in the
Yes.
game. They found the perfect opportunity where it's like they risk nothing and yet they can take him out. Whereas, you know, calling out somebody who would actually, you know, wreck them, i.e. pays their bills, can't do that. And so that's always going to be the line. That's always going to be where they run up against it. And so you always know that whenever they do get worked up about something, it's a distraction, or it doesn't have any real meaning on the industry apart from somebody just got caught. And so this time around, it's Carlos who got caught. Once upon a time, it was James who got caught. You know, it just goes that way. That's just the way of things, sadly. Although James, maybe James is a bit of a different situation because that was Gabe waking up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. But so not the same situation. But one thing that I wanted to bring up, and that actually broke very recently in regards to this story, was there was a couple of rumors going around. And so this is from Jackson.gg, who are pretty solid, right? They have a pretty good track record. I'm not aware of them fucking any news up.
I can tell you, they've contacted. I will, to some degree, vouch for them in the sense that they have contacted me previously, and sometimes asked me, "Do you have any info or lead on this?" And sometimes I will even say, "Yes, I do actually, but I think it's the same one you have. I actually think this story seems like it checks out." I'll tell you what I know, and sometimes some of those stories they've run them through and they're able to get them out there. So even though actually there's a separate story that also was in the news recently, which we might get to later from Jackson, which was disputed. Generally, I agree. I have not found them to be people who are dodgy. I have actually found them to be pretty legit individuals, and they do seem like they are trying the proper journalistic method. Whereas actually, if people don't know, unlike them, there was another set of group of people who also break news in League of Legends specifically, who were also reporting similar things, Semmler, and those people are not trustworthy. Those people have been shown to have one source, and then the source isn't itself a direct source, and it's someone who heard something, and what they do is, if you don't know the world of journalism, if you're legit, there's a million rumors like that going. You can't publish them because they haven't been run down. You haven't verified them. You haven't corroborated them. You might mess someone's whole career and life up with what ends up being a lie or a vicious rumor because you heard something and wanted to go first. That's why I always say you can always tell the shitter journalist, because when the shitter journalist, he has no connections. He has no legit sources. He doesn't have secrets. So when he gets one, he quickly goes, "Oh my God, I think I've got a secret for everyone." And he doesn't bother to check. And he goes, "Oh, but I might not be able to get the story over the line. Oh, but this is so important, Bob. But if I was the first," and he greeds and he goes for it and he goes out the gap. If you're actually a legit journalist, you have so many stories. You can let one go when it's not legit because another legit one's coming that will be verified. People like Richard Lewis have stories that are like 80% complete and written up that will never be published because that's how legit he is. He doesn't go, "Well, basically, no, it is true, so get it over the line." No, he goes, "I'm sorry, I couldn't get the second source. I couldn't verify this detail. This speculation could be really harmful in some cases, like G2, to the shareholders. It could cause them fucking all sorts of things. It could ruin people's lives and careers. So actually, I'll be responsible. I won't publish." Like, Jackson one seems legit as far as I can tell.
Jackson seemed to be on the money. And yeah, I haven't heard exactly, because you vouch for him. I've heard other journalists vouch for him, and it seems to me like they're really solid. I haven't caught them in anything, and it doesn't seem like there's been any scandal around them. So I'm willing to run with this one. Because they came out with an article recently where it says, and you're right, there is another article that we'll get to later from them as well in regards to our favorite team, Astralis.
Indeed.
But for this one right now, it's Riot Games reportedly blacklisted Ocelot. And so this could be the reason why the VCT thing happens, and this could also be the reason why there's this rumor going around right now that he is divesting his shares and that he's forced to sell his shares because he personally is not allowed to be involved with any Riot products. And so this really is like the personal way to go about it, where Riot are like, "Okay, fuck you in particular, not your brand, or as in like not your organization that you own and built. We'll still work with G2, but you are verboten now. You are out. You are banned." And so Riot have gone ahead, and it seems like Riot have gone ahead and made it so that it's a Monte Cristo situation all over again. A Quispidati Monte Cristo situation where he's going to be forced to sell. He's going to essentially be forced out of the project that he built, and that could be a great personal cost to him down the line, because obviously G2 are one of the biggest orgs in the industry, and so this is a huge play if true from Riot, who are really going after Carlos in particular. Like, what do you think about this situation?
Without going into too much detail, the problem is this. As far as I know, because let's be real, they did on this also say reportedly. It's not like they've confirmed it. I will say this is more like a rumor. And as far as I know, all I'll say is I don't actually think it is true. And not just because of the LEC people going, we never technically have. No, as far as I know, it's not true. But I can't give more details. But what I will say is this. It really does say a lot about Riot Games that it is so instantly believable and would be entirely within character and par for the course for them to do this. Because as you say, the way they treated Monte Cristo, the way they've treated other people, if people don't know, people always get this story wrong as well, because the devil is in the details. Absolutely. The devil is in the details, guys. The big picture might look legit. Like, it might be like, right, remember what they claim about the Renegade scenario. They've never produced evidence. So right now we have to be skeptical of their claims. They claim that Monte had a secret agreement that he would sell the company back to Chris Badawi, who was just acting as like a CEO of like the non-league part or something. Or, he was just like him back as his employee. He didn't own the company because he was blacklisted and banned at the time. And you can't own the company if you're banned. And they claimed that if you actually have an agreement in place that in the future something will happen, they treat it as though it's already activated now, which is not a terrible premise. Like, obviously one day it will activate, and they will essentially punish you now so that it doesn't get to one day he does own the company. You have to. So what they did, people forget this detail. They all go. So what they did is they just made Monty sell the company. Like, boo-hoo, I bet he made a bit of money. No, they did it in an incredibly capricious manner, Semmler. What they did is they actually told Monty, not only will we not produce evidence, even when a lawyer asks for it, won't show you the evidence of what you've done wrong. Just know we are infallible and we know you did it wrong. I've heard it was absolute nonsense, by the way. Behind the scenes, it was like they even claim someone just eavesdropped on them, like talking in like a fucking open second. Like, I think I'd sell the company back. Like the most, like just like a child would write that fucking script. It's so implausible, isn't it? What, they can't even get like a fucking encrypted WhatsApp message or something, you twat. They're just doing this in public. Like when fucking Curse and Dignitas threw that game and had an ARAM at that like Columbus event or whatever the fuck it was. So anyway, they claim that, right? But this is even worse. They didn't tell him like, so you've got like, until the next season to divest and sell the company. No, what they told him is this: you have to basically sell by this date. Here's the one buyer you're allowed. There you go. You're out. You're over a barrel. Your pants are down. Now just let this guy fuck you. That's what they did. And so even though Monty did make like a profit because he bought him for very little back when the spots could go, if you don't know, first of all, a few years later, some of the players in his teams became like top players in the world. Got nothing from that. Had to sell immediately for fuck all money. Secondly, it got franchised as a league. So now, by the way, as you've seen by these LEC slots, like Astralis is going to sell, instead of getting like $1 million, he would have been getting like 30 million for just waiting 3-4 more years and spending maybe 4, 5, 6 million more. And then after all of that, he couldn't even be in a situation where he can ever own a team again. Like, that was an insane one, because what they really tested there, Semmler, and they were right. By the way, Riot Games is absolutely correct, and this is how IP law works right now. They have the right to do all of that. It's like they actually are, if you don't know, the god of their game. Only within their little domain in their game, but they have ultimate power. I know it sounds like the fucking prequel, ultimate power. Like they're not. None of them are as cool as Palpatine, by the way. But like they're more like fucking that shit robot that was just spinning sabers, got wrecked by like fucking Anakin Skywalker. That was like General Grievous or something. General Grievance Studies. There you go. Whatever.
There you go, mate. There you go.
Masters really of spin, aren't they?
Like,
right?
That is the takeaway, though. That was like the first takeaway that I saw when one of my first takeaways on this was that, holy shit, who's ever going to invest in this industry again? Like, why would you ever take the risk?
Sadly, a lot of people did, I know.
Of investing, though. Now, after you see like yet another example of how your entire investment can get yanked out from underneath you at a moment's notice for any reason. That doesn't even need to make sense, the reason. You can literally just get your entire investment tanked overnight, as if there wasn't enough reason. Already it's like, okay, hold on. So your whole company is already relying on these game developers, right? You don't actually own the product that you're running your company on, right? No. And so these game developers, you're good friends with them, right? Yes. Do you have any guarantees that you're going to have any future work with them? So that, I don't know, we could like build some kind of like over the years kind of model, so there's some like return on it. No. And also it gets better. they can also pull the rug out and deny us the ability to run any of their events and all. But I don't, that's just the tournament organizer. That's also one of the massive reasons why this whole ESL getting bought for $1 billion. I'm like, dude, have you not heard of what they did, what Blizzard and Riot did to them when they pulled StarCraft 2 and pulled League of Legends and let them build up their scenes and then said, thanks, those are ours now. And ESL were left holding the bag after making all those investments. Like, how anybody can put more money into esports as it stands right now, it blows my mind.
If people don't know, Semmler's right. ESL, by the way, relies on Gabe Newell not waking up and saying, actually, let's take Counter-Strike back. If they ever do that, by the way,
they'd be done. They'd be
ESL,
dead.
As a company, will just become PGL when they didn't have CSGO events. They will just be white labeling dog shit like World of Tanks and Pokemon Unite. They'll be doing, that'll be the games they'll be doing. And as a result, by the way, they'll be irrelevant in esports. Like, their whole fucking, that $1 billion purchase is a house of cards, and the bottom card are all held by the game devs, and they can take them back anytime they want. They're just lucky that in CSGO they don't do it like they did, as you say, in Riot Games, where basically, just like with VCT, they said, oh, did you spend millions building up our thing and getting it all to be awesome and spend money on all your players and make a really good circuit? Thanks. We'll be taking our ball home. No more game for anyone. Bye.
Imagine your Optic Gaming. It's like you've invested all this money into building these teams, into building these brands, into generating interest. You have these streamers, you have all this shit that you've got going on, and it's like, oh yeah, no, by the way, you won't be involved in the league.
Oh, by the way, there's another detail to the Monty one that's even crazier. The whole thing, it isn't just that they wanted to fuck with Monty. That was part of it. We wanted revenge. And he's been very critical of Riot for years and years on my show, Summoning Insight, and on his Twitter, which was a massive follower. He was a massive influencer. Obviously, to this day, he has like 300,000 fucking Twitter followers. Like, he's an enormous figure. But also, this is the key part that people miss, Semmler. It wasn't like just to fuck with Monty that there was one buyer. That was also from day one, the scam of if you bought into the Riot ecosystem. At any moment in time, Semmler, it's like, remember, think of them, instead of the god, I'll use this analogy. They're the dad that's pressing the play and the pause button on the boombox when we're all playing musical chairs. Now, everyone who's ever played this game knows exactly where this is going. Because what does that dad do? You could be playing the best game of musical chairs ever. You're timing it just right when you go around. You know, he stops out every 5 seconds. But if he has a son or a cousin or a little nephew that he wants to get the chair, he'll just make sure you can't be in front of the chair when he pauses the music. He'll do it when the kid's just about to sit on and they'll pause it. And that's why the little kid who was not good at the game gets to still get in the next round or win the game, doesn't he? Same with Pass the Parcel. Bizarrely for you, it goes really quick. When it comes to him, it's going really slowly, right? If you don't get it, what they were doing by saying you have to sell to this one person is they were saying this. Oh, hey, guy who's top of my Rolodex, so I really want to be in my ecosystem, evil foreign investor, maybe a sports franchise person that I just want to be in bed with generally for all of my franchise leagues. You know what? Good news. Spot on the roster just opened up. This guy called Monte Cristo is going to sell to you. Contact him. By the way, you're going to be the only bidder, so bid whatever you like for it. He has to say yes, right? I'd suggest maybe in this range. Oh, but I'd obviously never legally say that. Anyway, you just go and do business with him, and magically you're in my ecosystem. Because another thing, by the way, that will spin separately, if people want a very quick take on the whole Optic VCT thing, which will give you a different perspective on it. But why would, here's the other thing that these game devs are doing, and it was actually Blizzard and Overwatch that pioneered this, right? Yes, most people in Overwatch League, even though they can't say it publicly, I think legally they can't even say it, by the way, if they signed some of these contracts, they can't admit now, Semmler, that they bought a lemon, that the Overwatch League slot wasn't worth 20 million, or even worse, the second round was 30 and 40. Not only did they know it wasn't worth it, but even better, it was all a con that when you bought into that, it was like, right, you've got two choices. Do you want to just waste the 30 million you've spent? Or do you want it to be spun into something that's a gamble of 50, but could get even more? So they went, good news, we got the CDL coming up for COD. Oh, what's that? You're already in Overwatch League. Well, you're the first customer in line, sir.
Exactly.
Step right up. And that's going to be the game that they're all playing. So that's what LCS and LEC was. Were you in LCS and LEC? If you don't know, by the way, Optic was. They fucked around. They messed it up and they had to leave and sell out, right? That's why if you're someone like Riot, it's like, well, haven't the fucking hens come home to roost? Because we're the ones who decide who's in our next franchise league. What do you know? You ain't in. And actually, if you don't know, the most scandalous part wasn't just that Optic isn't in. There were like orgs that have not even the tenure of Optic. They don't even have as good teams. That don't have any of the things that in theory should be the things. Like, this isn't like when the Blast announced that like Complexity's in, but Fnatic isn't. Like, this isn't like that. This would be like if they were like, Fnatic isn't in, but Ents is in. It's like, what the fuck? Who's Ents? You know what I mean? Like, that's how egregious this one would be. At least Complexity had the Dallas Cowboys and all that, and they had this history in the game. So yeah, if people don't know, there's even that like scam element where you're not even buying in to this. You're basically buying into like a subscription program to forever be part of franchise leagues for every game in the future. It's going to expand out, isn't it? Like that's going to be the biggest joke of all time. It's like, it's just going to be Riot, Blizzard and their pals just making these big companies and taking all the money. And as I say, you might think like these idiots did, Semmler, but I'm at the top of the LCS ecosystem. Yeah, for now, until Riot goes, yeah, thanks for building that for me. I'm going to take that and give it to my friend now. Because that's the game. This is why it all comes back to the IP rights. Like, they are God. I'm sorry, they are.
This is why when Valorant was kicking off and all of these talks about making teams and making leagues and making all this stuff, I'm just sitting here going, have you guys already forgotten history and how this works? They're going to take it away from you, and they're going to play God with your investment. They're going to be the ones who decide whether you're in it or not. And sure enough, it's playing out exactly that way. So, and on one side, I'm just like, I don't actually have any pity for these guys. It's just like, listen, dude, you understood the rules of the game when you got involved. You knew that this could be a risk.
You'll like this line.
Go for it.
One flashpoint in the hand is worth 2 VCTs in the bush.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I've heard that one before.
There you go. Okay.
It is. I mean, Riot are just such scumbags. It really is. It's a never-ending trove of just fucking, entertainment.
And it's going to continue. Let's be real. They're never going to stop. They're never going to stop.
Yeah, no. It's just you can just keep going forever. And then also, I mean, do have to mention that Richard did drop a banger of an article summing a bunch of this up as well, and also mentioning the fact that, again, I think you really nail it, where it's just like, yes, Carlos was literally in that area to have a speech with people who do the things that they are accusing him of doing, and it's just like nobody cares about that sort of thing. And so the article really, sums up some of the Carlos debacle and also goes into a little bit more of the gigantic hypocrites that are calling him out. So it's worth checking that one out as well. We'll have it in the description down below and all that sort of stuff.
Obviously, we always have some spicy topics on By the Numbers. And let's not forget, we have a spicy set of bonuses from esports bet. Because first of all, they have the classic first-time deposit bonus of 50% on up to 200 USDT. And if you don't like that one, there's another alternate first-time deposit bonus, which is up to 100 USDT, bet forgiveness. And I want to give you guys a little tip. If you've never done this one and you're thinking of it, when you do this, what basically you do is you make a bet up to 100 USDT. If you lose the bet, you go to the Discord of Esports Bet, contact the mods, tell them you want the bet forgiveness and that Thorin or Insight and Esports sent you. They'll credit your account up to 100 USDT back, and basically it's like you didn't lose the bet. Now, there's two angles I want to give you here. One, I would recommend what you do if you make this bet is pick an underdog with decent odds, like over 2 is the odds, maybe 2.1, 2.2, but you think actually they're going to win the match. And that way, if you win the match, you're going to get 2.1 or 2 times your money, and you're going to have loads more anyway. You're going to have 200, 220, and if you lose, you get the 100 back anyway.
And also real quick, worth mentioning, GROGcoin questions. We're doing GROGcoin questions live. Be sure to get your questions in there, guys, because we did have last week, and there are a few there, but there's also a few, like, you got a chance as well if you want to put some more in there. So hop in the Discord and ask some questions if you got some. So, all right, the next big piece, I think, big piece really, it did come off of Jackson, and Jackson don't really miss right now, so they're pretty bang on the money when it comes to stories. But I think we should go ahead and pivot out of the Carlos one and actually talk about the config one, because holy shit, what is going on over there? Like, the fact that, I mean, this guy, so he breaks his wrist, and that nearly tanks his career. Go ahead.
Oh, you mean previously when he broke his wrist in Complexity?
Exactly. So, I mean, already, so it's just like, what's going on with this guy that he just repeatedly has devastating injuries that require time and effort to come back from, and that may actually hinder his career? I mean, the wrist I was a little bit more worried about, because it's just like, dude, you need your hands to play Counter-Strike, right? At least this time it's an ankle. But again, how's this guy breaking his ankle? What's going on? You sit at a PC all day long. And so Jackson come out with a fucking fantastic article where the title reads, sources, Astralis set to remove config after fist fight in Malta. And so, okay, already
That's box office already, I know.
I'm already wondering. Okay, so what are the questions here? Because we know this isn't like a James Banks fist fight that didn't actually happen. He just got passed out drunk and hit his head. This is a
you know, this thing's on, right? People watch it. It's on Twitch and everything similar.
No, well, the Banks one is.
This isn't the green room now, mate.
Still that video up of him telling the story of like everything that happened and like the comment below where he's like, "Oh, you know, could you please remove this?" It's like
true. Yeah, you're right. It was. I know. Fanatic, James Banks manager here. Please remove this. Like,
please remove this, please. You know, now I'm gonna strike you. And I was like,
true.
Stop. The game is up. But Astralis set to remove Config after fist fight in Malta, and then Config so apparently comes out in a tweet. I guess that he thinks is going to make things better. But he says
I've got so much fire for you here. Come on, hit me with it. Just hit me with the facts. Keep going.
Okay, so apparently Astralis are set to remove Config from the active roster because apparently, allegedly, he gets into a fist fight in Malta. And so this is, you know, things have not gone well for him. Obviously, they get knocked out of the group. So yet another failure for Astralis, and also going into a pretty high stakes sort of scenario here, where you're in Malta to not only compete in Pro League, but then stay, boot camp, grind, and get your best shot possible for RMR. And so somehow, some way, you've gone ahead and gotten a fist fight. Probably the most, well, I mean, come on, unprofessional thing that you can't be doing that as a pro.
As someone who, as you say, uses your wrists, getting into a fist fight would be the most unprofessional action you could take, of course.
But okay, so already we don't really have the details because right now multiple sources tell Jackson that Config was involved in a quarrel that turned into a fist fight after ESL Pro League in Malta. And so where is, oh dude, they don't have the tweet in the article. Shoot, hold on, did I put that in the document?
You put it below it.
All right, so then the tweet that Config comes out with, and it's the classic, I fucking hate this, and it just makes me think that everything Jackson wrote is true, because I hate when players do this. I hate when anybody does this, where it's just like,
don't worry, I've got some liars. Come on.
So I'll just read it for you. Jackson contacted me with rumors that are mostly BS, bullshit, and I asked them to respect it as private. Of course, they went ahead anyway and even added to the story. So I asked them not to contact me again. It hurts like hell, but I hope to get green light from the doctor so I can get back soon. So rumors that are mostly bullshit. So which parts are mostly bullshit? And also the journalists are going to do the job. This is story material regardless. You broke your ankle, and the rumors, if the sources, if they're in contact with people and the sources say that you got in a fist fight, odds are you probably got in a fist fight. So here's a chance for you to give your side of the story at least. But instead, Config decides to go for the tactic of, actually, I'm just going to fucking call you liars and not say anything past that. Now, what I theorized happened is that, you know, when you're playing in that environment, still, you're not, as a player, you have to give your phone away. Because I'm just like, dude, we live in a day and age where every fight ever that happens gets recorded. Somebody's got a phone. But the joke with this one is that maybe, you know, it's like this literally happened after the game is over, before the players even get their phones back. Because this happened to Astralis versus Heroic, maybe, right? Because that's the assumption is that it's Dane on Dane action, and maybe there was some spicy talk going on between Heroic and Astralis, and Config is frustrated, he lets one fly. But it's in an environment where nobody has a phone because they just finished playing a match and they haven't gotten their phones back. So I'm just like, where's the footage? Where's the video footage? Where's anything on this? Like, how do we not have any information past a couple of sources and a Jackson article?
You ready for the fire?
All right, I'm ready. Hit me.
I hate this. Could be a Thorin's Thoughts video. Are you ready? So first of all, we have to establish the character of who Config is, right? As you said, there is already a story in the past where he has injured his wrist in a particular capacity, implying he is not careful about what is literally his money makers, his hands, his wrists. Remember, this is a guy, his whole game is based on having the best aim of almost anyone in Counter-Strike. Like, he is the person who cannot afford to break his wrists. If he breaks his wrists, he is done in CSGO. He isn't like old school Zipnik, some genius computer who's going to calculate everything. He has to shoot you straight in the head with amazing twitch muscle fiber precision. So the idea already, that suggests he's been reckless with his career, right? Then think before that, when he was in teams like North. He was kicked out when he was one of the best players in the world still. Then he was obviously in that team Optic, never really went anywhere, didn't seem like his career was going. It was implied before, he even sort of admitted in his interview with me, that maybe extracurricular activities got to him a little bit. Maybe he partied a little bit too much. You can decide in what way he partied, but maybe he was just burning the candle at both ends a little bit too much. And in doing so, if you don't know Config, kind of I always say what's brilliant about Counter-Strike is a lot of people's character as a person manifests in their playing style and what they're good at in the game, how they approach the game. So do you know what? You can imagine, think of how Woxic used to play on LAN, where he was the biggest balls AWPer ever, who'll run into your angle, no-scope some motherfucker, shoot another guy last second, and then go like, bro, you don't tell me tactic, I fucking kills this bitch. Like, that's the fucking guy Woxic is in real life too. That's why he will aggressively come back if someone trash talks him, or he might even just tell someone in his team to go fuck themselves and go play. That's who he is as a person. Similarly, just like he is in the game, where Config's style is just run through a brick wall and shoot your way out of trouble, that's also who I found he is in his extracurricular settings. He is the guy who maybe parties a little bit too hard, and when he does, if you talk shit to him and he's in that right mood, he ain't going to take it lying down and go, well, I'm a pro and let's just let it go. So here's the thing, I didn't even take it, quite frankly, that it was implied, as you said, about players. I actually think, by the way they intentionally mentioned nothing about anyone else in esports, that this would be something, here's my speculation, like he was in a bar afterwards. And you know what, Semmler?
It was a bank situation.
Some people, when they're in a bar or a club, when they've lost a game, want to get happy, and they're sort of a happy drunk, and they just get going in the game. Some people, it turns dark. Some people get aggressive. Some people in that scenario, they've already got so much shit going on in their head and in their life and their feelings, and the team isn't going well, and it's on the brink of everything, and you haven't qualified for the Blast 4 finals yet. They're going to be in Copenhagen, and you're going to be a laughing stock of Denmark, and you're the guy who was supposed to bring Israelis back up, and you haven't done it yet, and Blame F's carrying you, mate, and you're pretty good, but not quite what people were. If all this shit's going on, that's exactly where one person saying the wrong thing, bumping past you in the right way, saying, hey, get the fuck out, you know what, get the fuck out, foreigner, what are you even doing tomorrow? That's where the wrong guy saying that could set you off. And in that scenario, you're already out the tournament. You've got weeks to wait for the RMR. You're waiting there. You've been waiting the whole time. Is Device ever coming, or is he not coming? Are we just stuck with Farley, or what? Like, the whole thing's a pressure cooker. And in that scenario, I could see someone making a bad decision. I could see someone who already had too many drinks, maybe gets into a scuffle with someone, starts having a quarrel. Hey, don't push me, bro. Like, you go on one of those, and then all of a sudden, you trip over someone, you trip over their foot, your ankle's fucked. Now, I will say, here's what doesn't help Config, because let's do some analysis, right? You said it right there, Semmler. He's done himself with his tweet. I always say the reason esports pros are so fucking stupid and bad at decision making is they won't ever let sleeping dogs lie. If the initial story comes out, Config involved in this, he kills it with silence. Astralis kills it with silence. Nobody ever addresses it, maybe for 3 years, until he does Reflections Part 3, and then maybe then he says what actually happened and say for that point in time. Instead, what he does, as you said, like a lot of pros, he petulantly decides, I'm just going to say they lied, except here's the problem. I know they didn't lie. So what I'm going to have to do is infer that they lied so that my true fans will go, bloody Jackson, who even are they? I bet they're just trying to get all this fucking, like, get clicks off my name, aren't they? So here's what he said. He said, Jackson contacted me with rumours that are mostly BS. As you said, Semmler, the word mostly ruins that whole sentence. So what I always say is this. These are like the guys who you think they might have done it, but you haven't got it all nailed down. And then they go into the police station and they say too much in the interview and they give the whole thing away and they get trapped. And in the end, you know they did it. And then you go, right, well, now I've just got to look for the evidence. So look here. What he says there, the word mostly is doing so much fucking heavy lifting at this point in time. It's probably going to break the women's world record for weightlifting and fucking like bench press or something, isn't it? Fucking hell, boys. Because the joke, as you said, is, what do you mean mostly? What you've implied there is some of it's true. And since you haven't said which part, now people can even speculate any of it's true. That's why he's done himself. If it was totally false, and remember, he's never going to have any contact with them again. He has nothing else to gain from ever working with them again. Here's what you do. Here's what you say. Jackson lied. What they're publishing is a lie. I was never involved in a quarrel or a fight. My injury has nothing to do with anything else, except in this case, maybe it was a sporting injury or a Vespa, like whatever it could be. If you do that, by the way, Semmler, you have them over a fucking barrel. You have them dead to rights, and every fan, whether what you've said's a lie or not, will believe you, and you ride off into the sunset. You are victorious. Like when Device came out and slammed Nell and said that, like, you know what, I've got like mental health things going on, and like you shouldn't speculate as to why I'm not in a team. When he did that, loads of people were like, you know what, fuck that Nell guy, actually. How dare he? How dare you do that when someone else is mental? Config could have played this card. By the way, spoiler, if you know anything about basic strategy, I'm almost certain he would have done that if this was the case. I'm almost certainly that's what, because as he said, he's severed all ties with them. I even think, are you ready for a little piece of fire for you that a lot of people don't know? One of the people behind Jackson used to work for North. Remember who else used to play for North, Semmler? Config. So he probably even knows this person and had a previous relationship with him. That's why
spicy.
It's not just that it's mostly BS, but then he just tells him, I want you to respect it because it's private. We ain't in North anymore, homie. North's gone. That shit's gone, hasn't it? The underbite's gone, homie. At this point in time, he's a journalist now. If the story's there, he isn't coming to you saying, if you don't like it, though, I won't publish. Like, he ain't the North PR guy, mate. Now he's a journalist. So in this particular case, when you say, I don't want you to publish it, well, that was never on the table, you idiot. What you actually had a chance to do there, if you were smart, was maybe control how it came out. You could maybe say to him, I'll tell you what, here's what I'll do for you. Me and Astralis, I'll go away. I'll tell them you know that it happened, and we'll figure out like a way that actually will give you the official comment on what happened. And then you can publish the story, because before they publish the story, they give them the courtesy of telling him it. But you can publish the story, and in doing so, though, I'll give you a quote where I explain what happened, which is, you know what, I wasn't just in a scuffle. I wasn't just like being bad. This isn't like things I've done in the past or rumors that existed about me before. You know what, in this particular case, I was just having a quiet beer with someone in a bar, and someone bumped into me, and then what happened was, you know, like they said something, I was a bit upset, so I said something back, but then they pushed me, and then they started fighting me, and you know what? You notice I didn't break their jaw. I tripped over, they pushed me. If you do all that, by the way, this all goes away. This suddenly all the context comes in, it looks totally different. There's no big drama about it in that sense. So I have to say, the way this was done, I think he's given the whole fucking game away with his response here. I think it looks so silly. And yeah, as you say, it will always be the dirtiest tactic ever. When you know that some of it's true, to just basically infer like, you're just all lying. It's just lies and rumors. How could rumors be mostly BS? They're just bullshit. They didn't happen. It's not true. It's a rumor. You've actually now confirmed some of it isn't a rumor, you fool. So this is where these people can't help themselves, Sam. They just do. The joke there is he just kept talking to the police without his lawyer. He's just got him fucking bodied, hasn't he? Like they've done the old switcheroo and it's wrecked him. Well, your mate's just said everything. Oh, well, he didn't do it all. It was his idea. Oh, shit, what have I done? Like, which, by the way, spoiler, like, none of that shit would actually hold him in court most of the time. It's like entrapment in it. But in every TV procedural, that's how they catch them when they're not good enough for writing the plot in it.
Well, there is the rule. Don't talk to police. Good, bad, doesn't matter. Don't talk. Just
get a lawyer, or in this case, get the PR guy. That's the other thing, mate. How far's Astralis gone? Device was just posting tweets other people wrote for him. Config's just out here whiling. By the way, there's another thing that's mad. Notice he doesn't say anything like, actually, my spot isn't in any way in danger. Because here's the last thing I have to say. You nailed it earlier, but you didn't put 2 and 2 together. You said 2 and 2, and you didn't do 4. Here's what you didn't think about Semmler. Why the fuck would your ankle being wrecked means you don't get to play in the team? Homie, you sat down. You could even have your leg elevated and still play the game. People have played who were in wheelchairs with no legs. Like, if it was your wrist, Semmler, it makes sense you can't play. If it's your ankle, you know what the implication is. I didn't know this because I didn't know this story had happened, and I wouldn't know if it was true or not. If this is the case that he's been in some sort of a scuffle and he's wrecked his ankle, then maybe that is why they benched him. Maybe actually in this case they decided, you know, we're sick of your shit, and this is just like the straw that's broke the camel's back, so actually you're out. Yeah, we're going to actually either suspend you or we're maybe looking to move on from you. And obviously, there is still the shadow that maybe Device can still come to Astralis. And if he comes, look, I know it's going to make everyone really sad if Farley and Device are in the team at the same time. But if they think Config's the troublemaker, and spoiler, he's been the troublemaker in a past big Danish team and doesn't seem, unfortunately, potentially to have learned his lessons, then he's the guy who's gone. I think he's actually inadvertently validated most of the whole story against him.
In one single tweet. Like that, you got it's like an achievement unlock or something, you know, like you really gotta work to pull that off, except that he probably didn't even, he just probably was like, oh, pure emotion, just gonna post this and own this guy real quick. And then, I mean, what do we give the English isn't his first language excuse? Is that how we get out of this as well? You know, like, well, you know, maybe, you know, it's not translated correctly because in Danish he would have said this, and I don't know, dude.
And yeah, that is right, by the way. All you people out there like, oh, but he just does a script for all his videos. Homie, I could just drop a video like live, impromptu like that and make it fire.
There you go.
I even did that. Fucking North. No.
Dude, I
was in North, like a brave line. I was in North. Me and Katie were in North. Fucking hell, get out. Get the fuck out of my face.
Dude. Just bringing the dragon back. Just bringing it's. I mean, you have to be told it's a dragon, and then you do think that it's a. Yeah, whatever.
The North dragon was like the dragons in Game of Thrones. The actual old North dragon or whatever was like the fucking House of the dragons. Way better.
Way better. All right. Well, as far as config is concerned, I mean, dude's gonna be sitting it out. Mister's coming in. Mister, right? Shoot, I just threw that out there. I'm pretty sure it's Mister coming in from the from Astralis Talent, who's gonna be standing in for him. And well, I mean, we find out if this is the end of the config saga on Astralis. If he's not going to get to play with the mic, we're not going to get to
look something up. I'm gonna have to look something up. I can't even believe this is real. I'm gonna find it for you though.
No.
Oh fuck, where is it? Oh, I can't find it at the moment. Let me see. Maybe it's a different game. Fuck. I'm trying to see what other games do they have teams in. I'll look on the Astralis thing. I swear Astralis on their Twitter the other day posted like a player that was on some academy team of theirs, but it might have been, it doesn't seem like it's CS, and he had the most absurd name of all time to be in. Let me have a look here. Let me see what it was though. I'm trying to see if I can find it, because if I can, it's pure banter. Let me have a look what it was called. Oh, it's not going to be here, is it? Oh no, here we go. Here we go. This can't be real, surely. Let me just double check. I'm just going to Google this to check it's actually right. No, this is his actual name. It's just what game does he play, though? Oh, it's from CSGO. Oh, no, never mind, actually, never mind. It was apparently some match. I thought that they'd announced a player and his name was Struggle Tony, but apparently that's the team they were playing against. I was going to say, if the talent in their team, it's like, yeah, they do bloody struggle, don't they, in fucking Astralis, like the talent, bloody hell. It's like being if you join Astralis as like the fifth man, I used to think the old Nip fifth spot was pretty cursed, Semmler, the Poison Chalice. If you join the fifth spot in fucking Astralis at any point in time, it's like being in like Dickensian time where you're like a fucking little, like you're with Fagin and he's like, right, you're small enough to fit through the windows. You're going to get in there and you're going to go and open the door for us all. Don't worry if he chases you. And then we're all going to come in and rob the house, aren't you? It's like that. You're just doing all the shit jobs, aren't you? You're just getting wrecked all the time. Like fucking Lockie, Farley, mate, it's Bobski. Remember Bobski? Remember that? Remember when Bobski was alive? Dead now, of course. Fucking hell. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I know. Mate, he's like some guy who like went in the porn industry. It's like 2 years later, he's just used up and fucking tossed to one side.
And now he's a porn advocate.
I know, looking like a fucking kebab
or whatever the play is.
Looking like a fucking Donna kebab.
I know. It's fucking brutal. Well, what was? I mean, did you follow Moldgate at all? Whatever was happening with Simple in the hotel room.
If people don't know, I was the one who posted on my Twitter the Love in Malta response from the hotel. Because I just saw it on like HLTV or something. Like someone just posted it. So I was like, I'll put it out there. I noticed immediately, got on Reddit and went right up. You know what, Reddit people? You're not very smart, are you? Because if you ever go and check my account and look at submitted, I used to submit like half the fucking content from all the little content creators, and cool videos and news and people joining stuff. Because here's what people don't know. Most people are so lazy, they don't even do the Redditor part of like submitting the content they like. They just like it and go, well, whatever. And so as a result, the joke is that story wasn't even breaking. Like there was the whole thread about like Simple making his claims. But no one had this thing from the fucking like some like Maltese thing, like promoting tourism in Malta, saying like essentially like they dispute it. They say it's a lie. They say that you didn't let people in the room. Like, so I posted that and then finally it got onto Reddit. So I was like, mate, what the fuck would you guys do if people like me and Richard leave the scene? Just not know anything? Because mate, give the info on that. Basically, lay out the facts of this story because this is an amazing story. We've already been chronicling it on the last episode, but basically, yes. Spoiler: when Simple said I'm a piece of shit, he's going to expose me. That was just like some fucking mad like canary in the coal mine. That Simple has just lost the plot. Then after that, he went and got those fucking ridiculous, like something out of like fucking Roger Rabbit or something, mate. Those ridiculous fucking gnashers. And if you ever just look up, if you want to laugh yourself to sleep, look up the picture, not the one we initially posted, like, not that nightmare one. It just fucking looks like he's completely, like he's become a TV game show host in the 80s. There's a worse one where he's with the people who did the surgery and mate, I could laugh so much.
The actual dentist.
The guy on his left, on our right, who is a dentist apparently, his teeth are fucked up, but really fucked up. He has giant gnashes like seashells or something. Like fuck, looks like fucking Ariel's gonna come out one like under the sea, like fuck. Mate, all I'm gonna say is this. Like, if I went to a mechanic's and his car was all ragged outside and shit, I wouldn't go in, would I? He's not good at a mechanic. This motherfucker, look what he did to himself. So anyway, yeah, he obviously got those teeth done, didn't he? And then there was like the whole fucking, like, basically, I don't know what's going on with Simple, mate. It's something really, it isn't to do with me, by the way. That was just, like I say, that was just a fucking warning shot or something. He's unraveling this year. It's actually disturbing.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what's going on, dude. Yeah, that's the brutal thing about it. Like, he's put on a lot of weight, so it makes you think that you hope that it's not drinking.
That charity tournament thing where he joined a fucking legendary charity tournament, chewed people up in a fucking charity tournament.
That was the whole War 2K thing where all of a sudden there's drama between him and War 2K, and it actually spills out onto social media. So if it spills out onto social media that it was bad enough to get people proper pissed off. So that's already something where you're like, dude, it's a charity game. How are you guys getting wrecked on? Like, how are you guys wrecking each other publicly over this? When it's literally a game that has no real value. You guys are just playing for the sake of playing. Like, what is that? So already you're like, okay, boy. And then the Malta hotel thing happens where
this is amazing. Come on, hit me.
At least so Simple posts a picture where there's mold, there's like black fungus around the vents in his hotel room. And he's saying, this is disgusting, the terrible from this hotel to do this sort of thing. The hotel comes right back at him, though. This is after ESL also kind of makes a post where Flying DJ makes his usual appearance, saying that, there's excellent player relations. There's excellent relations between the players in the hotel and the ESL staff. And, communication channels have been open and we haven't heard anything about this. And so he does his thing. But
we have a symbiotic relationship with the players, kind of like mold growing on a warm wall in a hotel. Oh, shit! It's not the analogy I meant. It's not the analogy I meant. Shit.
It's not coming out.
Shout out to the crying BJ.
You can't scrub that mold off.
The crying
sadly, BJ. There's no redemption on that one. But then that was the crazy thing is that you're right. This Love in Malta article comes out where now it's a Maltese hotel. So the title of this one. Is that Maltese hotel says CS gamer spent 3 weeks refusing for his room to be cleaned. And so, listen, guys, so this is like past experience, right? But I have seen gamers' rooms, and then there have been some insane videos of gamers like the League of Legends houses in the past, where it's just trash 3 feet deep of just fast food wrappers and empty bottles and just all sorts of shit lying around. So again, not saying that this is the case with Simple, but there is a trend with gamers when in hotel rooms and when there's nobody to basically pick up after them because they're a bunch of degenerates, it can get out of hand really quick. And so if you're living in a hotel, you're eating takeout, you're ordering food in, and that's essentially what the hotel is claiming. He's like, listen, this guy's just been ordering food in all the time, and he's not allowed us to come in and clean it. And so Simple claiming that there's ants in the room and that there's mold coming through is just okay. Also, one tidbit worth of information is also apparently there was a big rainstorm a couple of days before, something along those lines as well. And so,
could have leaked through the roof or something.
Big rainstorm could have gotten into the ventilation and could have been more humid than it normally would be. Mold, humidity, all that could have been the perfect storm coming together. But basically, this Love in Malta, this hotel just fights right back, saying like, "Listen, dude, this guy's just not letting us to come in to clean the room. So if things get out of hand, I mean, what can you expect us to do?" And so Simple comes out and says that he's not going to take it and that he's going to expose these guys for liars. And
I've never heard that before.
Never heard that before. And I haven't seen anything since from Simple.
Yeah, weird how that goes, in it. Yeah.
It never actually did.
Almost like they got him back to rights.
Materialize after this Lovin article. This Lovin article is basically the last one that I saw on any of it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this whole the moldgate? Because I saw you had a pretty fucking good tweet about it.
I'm loving it. Yeah. Listen, I already liked Malta anyway. They're sticking it to Simple, putting it in the fucking goat's face. Hell yeah. So what I liked about this was, look, the problem is I don't know enough about mold and mold growing to know, like, can it grow like that if you just close the door? Like, you actually gave a quite good theory there. If there was a rainstorm and it made the ventilation come in, and then as a result, the walls are sort of getting the condensation and the wallpapers get, like, that is sort of, if you don't know how you get, like,
it's like a shower.
Yeah, in theory, that's famously why it happens in bathrooms. It's a classic thing in a bad hotel, right? It'll be in the bathroom near the ventilation shaft. It'll start to get moldy. So I don't know if that's true, but I will say, like, one aspect that's fucking hilarious about this is, like, obviously Simple again didn't deny any of the key aspects. He just put dirty room equals dirty lies, lol, or something. Like, he didn't even again, he had all the power and he had the biggest, remember, his platform is 1,000,000 times bigger than Lovin Malta and whoever this hotel is. He could have crushed them, but like an ant. But he didn't, did he? Because first of all, he's probably become the fucking queen of the ants, hasn't he? He's probably all communicating with them. We will bring you sugar simple. Part my hair in the middle, part it in the middle, like fucking hell. Listen, if you wanted to look more like a twat, why are you making hair go around the top like that? Think about the fucking historical precedent there, homie.
Still has that.
He must be a 70s throwback. I'm even going to do my hair like this. For the rest of this segment, I'll do this. Like, look, I'll do it like simple. Look, fucking hell.
Stop.
Anyway, basically.
Absolutely not.
Basically, here's the key thing to say. My joke is that when he denies it all, he probably denies it all like this. He was probably like, they say that's because I've been locked up in this room all the time that all this mold's here, but it's not true. I wasn't doing anything to do with mold on the walls. I was just eating donuts, eating burgers, and fucking having candies all around the place. For some reason, though, I've got ants everywhere. And the weird thing is, I'm pretty sure something's fucked up because there's no way that the maid could have brought the ants or the mold in because I haven't let her in 3 weeks. It's like the joke is like, yeah, it's obvious why it's happening, you idiots, all the stuff you've done in it. And then my other joke would be this. It's totally logical why he wouldn't want to let them in the hotel room. Because if he let them in the hotel room, they'd find all those giant jars of piss and all the giant long fingernails he's got and all the monitors that he's on. Like, what's he said about me next? I'm going to expose them all. They're all pieces of shit. They're all trying to get me. They're all trying to get me. They're all trying to get me. What if I become someday young? What about that then, Blade? What about that? I'm going to go to Dubai and secretly coach the team telepathically. That win was me. That win was head trick when he missed. That wasn't me. That one was me. Mate, he's losing the plot. It's actually getting fucking disturbing now. Like, even that comeback, this is why how whack it was. Remember, when Simple thought he could come back against me with facts, Semmler, to do with that story of did he do the DM to Obo? Remember, he was dropping fucking DMs. He was trying to give info. In this case, he has a chance to wreck this hotel completely. And all he does is, like, make it lighthearted. Like, dirty room equals dirty lies. Lol. Anyway, goodbye, Semmler. Anyway, I'm just going to go and get my fucking bottom teeth that like fucking
I just checked what if there was any update on it, and he just says resolved. Apparently they sat down, and everybody had a respectful tone and they've resolved the situation. And so he just tweets resolved. So it's not like, oh, I'm exposing them for being liars. I'm not exposing, I'm exposing them for being dirty liars.
Let me just ask you a quick question. I'll just do a survey of the room, right? Does Simple seem like the sort of person where if you lied about him and wronged him, he would privately resolve the matter and then go, we've had a sit down and we've resolved the matter like candles and I just don't have a further statement to make? Like, that just sounds like he went along like, you've got me bang to rights. I'll tell you what, I'll actually get rid of the ants and can I get a new room? And here's a $50 tip. $100 tip because I do really like the service. I'm going to go and like all the love and multitude. Give me a fucking break. Mate, it's like how much more obvious could these pros make it that they just caught bang to rights in it? I know, it's fucking mental. I love it.
Every single time. I just hate that the first reaction is just like, oh, yep, they're all liars, of course. All liars. All these journalists who actually have a track record and all that. All liars.
To be fair, though, maybe Simple's discovered Buddhism because it's all about the middle way. I gotta stop doing that. Whatever. Just keep going. Whatever.
Holy moly. Now you're reaching.
I know. That is a reach. I know.
Well, that was that is just like the Simple saga. Simple was involved in another one as well, where there was a DDoS attack on the ESL stream where he got targeted personally. New form of attack apparently where it targets the Steam client itself. So it's not like it's an internet thing. It's not wiping out because DDoS, the way that it went before is that you would get a player's IP and then you would blast the IP and that would wipe out all the internet in the venue, and so you would lose the stream. Like the whole thing goes down. And so we used to have to deal with this way back. Every day, players getting DDoSed, massive pain in the ass. But hey, it was a lot. It was still fun. Now, well, Simple just got screwed over a couple of times this time around, and so ESL had to say that had to come out after a couple hours delay and fix the situation and come out publicly saying, listen, it wasn't the ESL were very quick to cover themselves in the sense that it's not the graphics cards, it's not the PCs, it's not the internet, it is a Valve issue, it is a Steam issue, and so it's not our fault. It's not our fault, guys. It's not our fault. I swear. It's not our fault we didn't fuck it up again this time. Like, this isn't something that we had under our control. It's like, fine, fair enough, ESL. They figured it out, and it looks like things are running smoothly. So Once again, haven't had more issues like that, at least so far with the broadcast.
Why is there like a weekly drama with Simple now, though? It's mental. Like I even love that one about the charity tournament or whatever that tournament was with all the legends. Because think about how fucked in the head every aspect of it is. It's a tournament that's literally like either washed pros or retired legendary pros like Mark Love
Neo
and
and Fourth played on the same team.
It's the whole point of it is obviously it's an exhibition tournament by definition for fun to entertain people. So you come along and go, huh? I've always wanted to play with Forrest and Neo and Marklov. It's like, it's not really your time though, is it? Like, that's like retired legends. It's like an exhibition. No, but I'm the best player in the world, so I could bring attention to your tournament. Like, they can't say no. He's going to bring in an enormous amount of eyeballs, right? So they let him in the tournament. You'd think he'd sort of read the room and go, well, should probably fucking chill out. If anything, I'm way better than all these guys. I could just fuck around, make it fun, knife a few people, and let's just have some fun with some legends and however it goes, it goes. Because at the end of the day, it isn't like a major. It doesn't matter if I win or lose. Instead, this fucker gets in, and then it's like those shit stories about Michael Jordan, like, oh, if you play him at ping pong and you beat him, he has to play you for 9 hours till he beats you at ping pong. It's like, look, everyone who thinks in documents, oh, it's so cool is winning. No, it's cool when he does that in basketball. If he does that to me, I'd just slap him. Like, I don't want to play fucking ping pong for 9 hours, you fucking deranged cunt. It's not basketball. Like, you've actually ruined ping pong for us all. So in this scenario, he comes in the game and he's got this. Think of how insane he'd have to be to even want to play, but then to hold them all to an insane standard of the current meta and the advanced metagame thinking of the greatest player to ever play CSGO, and to be going like, you guys are all fucking shit. Yeah, they're all retired. It's a fucking exhibition tournament. Did you see Neo when he was even in phase like 2019? He was a washed as fuck. What are you talking about, slamming people? Or World 2K, he hasn't even been anyone yet. He's still on the come up. He's barely played any lands in his whole career. And you're fucking wrecking this guy because you lost a tournament where there's nothing on the line. It's for fun. There's not even, by the way, anyone going to trash talk you that you lost. Everyone's going to go, you know what? In fact, here's the joke. If you lost that game, everyone would go, that's how cool Simple is. He could have taken over the game, but he's even willing to let himself lose the game because he knows it's about the legends. It's about everyone having fun. No, instead what you do is actually create bullshit drama, which has totally overshadowed this tournament, by the way. And also, you've now potentially, if it wasn't for the fact people seem to understand that Simple was the arsehole, you could have ruined this whole Warrior 2K's whole career, by the way, because you're the greatest player in the world, and everyone does think, as you saw when he had a battle with me, because you're amazing at CS, everything you say is correct or something. Like, that's a real thing in esports because of how young people are. So to me, the whole thing was just like, fucking hell, mate. This is just like some mad, this is, you're on some like Charlie Sheen level shit. You're just spiraling, mate. He's winning. Like, this is fucking, I'm bringing all the old memes back, all the old classics.
Dude, that is a classic as well. But I mean, yeah, no, that's it. It really is kind of disturbing to watch what's going on, and I hope that it's going to resolve itself soon, or that he's going to be able to figure out some kind of stability to get him what he needs. Because holy shit, dude, it's starting to get a little out of hand. There is one thing I gotta like circle back on an old topic, which was the G2 Carlos thing. We did actually find this pretty freaking funny because I was looking through the G2 stuff. I was like, what are they posting ever since? And then it also got picked up in Discord as well. But like, I didn't connect the dots. But one of the guys so I was looking through G2. I was like, oh, okay, like I was looking for some information, couldn't find it. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. I didn't connect the dots, but one of the guys in the Discord did, and he's like, did you notice that pre-Carlos disaster, whatever, for G2, there's no mention whatsoever of any of the female teams going on, but post-Carlos, their entire feed is only posts about the G2 female team, and it's only posts about their female players, as if like, guys, look, we're not misogynists, like we love women, like, this is all we do, this is our whole org is about women, we love it here, right, guys, come on. Like, it's such a weird it was just like this little detail where it's like, what the fuck.
I'll tie that back in. That was the point I tried to make on the Four Horsemen. If you notice, the others didn't want to bite on it, though. This is the maddest thing of all. You know, when I said they'll take the one action you did and act like it defines your whole life, right? Carlos, by definition, has supported women more than every single person who criticized him. He has hired them for his team as influencers. And by the way, promoted the fuck out of them in like League of Legends and games like that. In CSGO, he had one of the best teams featuring some of the most legendary players ever, like Zaz, etc. Then obviously he did the Valorant Game Changers one way. He's got them in that, I think it's Game Changer. He's got the team in that game as well that's doing all that. He has done so many actions that have benefited, progressed, promoted, made women's lives better in esports. But here's the thing, Semmler, that's how you know the people criticizing him don't care about women in esports. That's just a proxy for them to attack Carlos. Because everything he did, one bad tweet by their logic, I don't think there's a bad tweet, one bad tweet, what he did means nothing. So what that means, by the way, is this is how bad the groupthink has gotten now. There is not allowed to be any diversity of opinion We are not going to be inclusive. We are actually going to be exclusive, and we are going to be singular and one-minded on this topic. There is one opinion, and even if you are Mr. Promote Women, Mr. Hire Women, Mr. Like evolve the space for women. By the way, think about what he's also done with the G2 brand, the coolest brand in esports that is using trash talk and edgy humor, and he's taking that and making the women cool. Have you ever seen the way the CSGO and Valorant team is pitched? They themselves have learned how to do the bants where you do the thing like, we've got a trash bag here with like, that's like team secret or whatever. Like that all comes from Carlos. He's actually getting, by the way, so that in this scenario, now some of the ignorant men who are on the global offensive subreddit, like, they're not even as good as a main team, so why do they get to play? I've always said this and I'll say it again. For the same reason we have NA slots in majors, you fucking idiot. NA could be garbage, but we don't just only have 16 teams from Europe, do we? You're the female player in that scenario, you idiot. You need a leg up. You need a space you can compete and play because you can't be with the best right now. So how would you ever develop in the same way as you have the women's tournaments, don't you? Me and Semmler were never against that. We were against the way it was disingenuously marketed and as a way to attack men when it shouldn't have had anything to do with men. It should have been about women and celebrating women and helping women get better if you gave a fuck. So in that scenario, what we've learned is this, Semmler. You can do everything right. You can do more than anyone else. You can do a million good deeds, but their logic is like, good. That's what everyone has to do. And then if you do one tweet we don't like, none of it counts for anything. And worse, will even imply, without mentioning all the things you did, that you're like an evil misogynist. Why the fuck? I've made this point before, I'll make it again, Semmler. You do know evil misogynists wouldn't do all those things for women. It's like, you know, people, there's a famous example, so I'll make it again. They always say, that's like saying, I have one black friend. No, I'll make the example again. That's like saying, no, I don't have one black friend. I've actually been a prominent member of the black community in which I've organised like charity runs. I've actually like scholarshiped a whole bunch of kids through things. Most of my friends are actually black. In this particular scenario, like actually I've helped out like, you know, homeless communities, and I even took in a child. I adopted them. I've raised them for 10 years. They're now at Harvard, thanks to all the work I put in. All this at the end, and then you going, that's just like saying you're going to back. No, it's like saying I've got skin in the game like a motherfucker. That's like saying I put my neck on the line and I did so many things. It's so implausible that I did them for evil reasons because I hate black people in this case. So in this particular analogy, how could he be someone who just hates women, who believes women are just property, who doesn't care about them? He wouldn't have taken all these actions. He wouldn't have put them in the forefront. Remember, while he was doing all this stuff, he had Nico in his organization, Reckless, Perks, Caps, fucking Kenny S. He had the biggest names ever in esports, Scream. He had all these people that he could have just ridden like a cynical fucker. But there was loads of orgs out there that get the props. They don't give a fuck about their female team. You'll never see a tweet about it. You'll never see them get the top players. They'll just stay in the game. They'll have a bad female team just to say we're in the game, but not spend money on the good players. They'll do everything that holds the scene back for women. But this guy did one tweet you don't like and he's just cancelled. In that case, you never cared about, you know, they always use that term, Semmler. It's all about how much harm is done. How about how much good is done? How about how much good you've now denied women in esports because you've driven this guy out? I hate that whole topic, mate. Because again, they had to go out of their way to never mention all the fucking shit he's done about women.
The reality is, I mean, if you want to take the ESL impact or whatever, like the whole women's side of things, you know, why it is such a complex topic. Well, it's literally streaming right now as we're recording this, and it has less than 300 viewers. So the viewership isn't there for the female scene, at least, you know, from what we can see right now on a day to day. Because I can also look and see there's 152,000 people watching on the English stream, Cloud9 versus FaZe. But there's less than 300 viewers watching, you know, the ESL CSGO GG, B4 Esports versus Endgame. You know, so it's just like,
come on, play the clip, pull it up, Jamie. It's Bill Burr, like women in the WNBA. Just look it up.
There you go.
I think Bill got it covered on that one.
Dude, Bill had a bunch of them. I didn't, you know, she didn't say it like that. She didn't say it like that. You know, like that's a mega clip as well. Just totally over the top. So good. Bill gets a lot right. But yeah, I mean, it is worth circling back on that. It is worth mentioning again that, you know, you can do all of the good things, but nobody remembers it. They always remember the bad.
It's how you know that it's a bad faith argument, Semmler. It's not actually about women, is it? Because otherwise you would take into account all these things, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, it's co-opted. It's always about parasitism.
Yes.
Parasitism. We have a couple of other things actually worth mentioning. Again, it's just esports really, but conflict of interest with Navi's new owner potentially.
Oh God, he said the dreaded words, guys. Conflict. That's going to be like my Chinese wallet touch. Conflict of interest. But what is a conflict? Why is that a conflict? Please stop. Please.
Well, yeah, no,
guys, I've explained it. I've explained it before.
I had this discussion already today, where it's like I was looking into this,
it.
and I'm like, okay, so according to this article that's put through, Navi's new owner reportedly tied with GGBet and Vulcan Casino. GGBet is one of Navi's main sponsors. Was one of Navi's main sponsors, and then was changed over. 1xBet became their title sponsor, their title betting sponsor for a year, and then it came back to GGBet. And so what they're talking about in this article is that through a bunch of different Cyprus companies, because that's where Navi is housed as well in Cyprus, it has become clear that GGBet apparently are now the owners of Navi, and that now, instead of it just being a title sponsor kind of situation where your sponsor is a gambling company, now it may very well be that Navi are literally owned by a gambling company. And so talk about, again, that combination of words, conflict of interest, where now all of a sudden, it's like GGBet are very involved in with other teams as well. How is it that you can avoid, how is it that this sort of thing can be permitted?
I mean, by the way, shall I just give you a few quick obvious examples of how this conflict of interest could be insane? Right, here's one for you. Right, what if they knew that Navi has a scenario like Simple's not going to play in a tournament? So what they do is this, Semmler. They get everyone to make all these mad bets on the game that Navi are going to win. You give Navi like 1.3 odds for the game because it's Navi, right? They got Simple. And then right before the game, 5 minutes before the game goes live, because you own Navi, you just reveal that Simple ain't playing. All those people you just tricked into betting on the team that might lose the game now. Like that happened, remember, in the first game of Blast, like they were in a bad situation, like they were in trouble. But they lost 10 points recently, even with Simple. Like, these are things that could happen. Another one is an obvious one, which is, what if the odds are so crazy, Semmler, that you can, like, I'll give you an example. I'm not saying this happened, Semmler. I'm not saying it. I'm saying in a hypothetical world where there was a man who's not the real Mike Tyson, he's the hypothetical Mike Tyson. If he was at the peak of his powers, not real Mike Tyson, hypothetical world Mike Tyson, at the absolute peak of his powers, you know what prime Mike Tyson was like? He used to just destroy people in one round. He used to just knock them straight out. He used to beat people so fast that people complained the pay-per-view wasn't worth buying because the fight was over in like 4 minutes, right? What if that guy gets all the money on him and some absurd underdog, like a hypothetical guy who's not the real Buster Douglas, but could be called Buster Douglas, beats him in an insane upset, and everyone who bet on Mike Tyson loses their money, and fuck all people bet on Buster Douglas anyway. Do you know who benefit the most from that? You're going to think Buster Douglas. No, the bookmaker, you fool. They've just made all the money in the universe. Well, what would happen if the bookmaker was also the manager of Mike Tyson? That's it. Now, in this scenario, I know now Ryan at Push V and certain people from the NA scene who didn't understand the Philadelphia conflict of interest would go, but why would they do that if there's so much money, right? It's irrelevant why. The point is, can they, and is it possible to police them if they have this big? No, it isn't. You wouldn't. It'd be very difficult to police this. Then secondly, there's a whole angle of like, but they wouldn't do that. Well, you can't know that. You can't read motherfuckers' minds, and no one cares what you would or wouldn't do. Like, this is what people don't get. They think that you're making the accusation. No, what we're saying is this. You have to safeguard these things from being allowed, otherwise you open the door to this corruption. Like, basically, obviously it goes out saying a betting company can't own a team and then also make fucking wages on the tournament the team plays in. Like, think about this. How is that even allowed by Valve? Remember what Valve said most famously, Semmler, to even talent as well, that you're never to bet on games, essentially. They didn't mean like talent like us. They meant more like, you know, people who are like the players, the coaches. You're never allowed to even bet on yourself. You can't do that because obviously there'd be a direct scenario where you could throw the game and all the rest of it. That's one of the reasons I buy Power got fucked, isn't it? They bet on themselves then through the game. So in this scenario, it should go without saying that like this should be like one of the cardinal sins of being in CSGO would be for a betting company to have any financial like direct interest. It's already dodgy enough you're sponsoring them. I don't even think that should be allowed, quite frankly, Semmler, that a betting company can sponsor you. That's already a connection by which they could exert financial and political influence over you. The idea they can just outright own your company, lock and stock. And then if you don't know, all I'll say is this. The people who go, but they wouldn't. Why would they? What if they got caught? Yeah, what if CSGO coaches cheated? Wouldn't that potentially ruin their whole career? What if they got caught? Wouldn't they get banned for years, Semmler? What if there loads of them were doing it and they all ruined it? It did happen. And if you don't know, some of the names still haven't come out of the coaches. And the joke is this: I'd be quicker to name the coaches who didn't. Like my mate Zeus from fucking EG, and as far as I can tell, he didn't. That's how legit he is. Yanko didn't. That's how legit he is. Some of the other names out there who haven't even been named yet are on the list. Almost everyone was on that motherfucking list. Even, and you know this already now, your boy Zonic was in some capacity on that list. So the idea of telling me, but they wouldn't, that's irrelevant. You fools, some people will never learn until it's too late, sadly. So that whole thing, I think, this topic stinks, mate. This topic stinks.
Especially because you don't even need to be talking about rigging matches in general. You could be talking about having very specific bets on
prop bets,
winning this round, losing this round, doing one particular thing. Like now you can get so nitty-gritty with how these bets work.
Dude, you'll love this. There was a story not that long ago, Richard covered it, where during a game, a fan found out that if someone bought like the fucking Negev or something like that, that there was an insane odds. And so all the casters in the CIS region were laughing about it. And so Electronic did it in a game. That wasn't even when someone was doing any pressure. That already happened, that someone from Na'Vi rigged a fucking bet. So in this scenario, as you're saying, that we're never going to investigate if for some reason, like, someone buys twice as many AWPs if that was like a fucking prop bet. We would just think that's a game where they wanted to AWP a bit more. We'd never even be able to track that down, mate. It would be so easy because that's the other thing they all do. That's what the boneheads about Striker and them we were talking about Fragadelphia never understood. They can only conceive, because they've never looked into it and they're cretins, of match fixing as all 10 players agree, you're going to win the game and I'm going to lose. Now let's go on our personal accounts and bet all the money. That's the only thing they can conceive of because they're dimwits. They don't understand that you could even do something like, right, you win map 1, I win map 2, and map 3, maybe we even just play as a BO1 and see who wins the game. You make all your money off one bet, I make it off the other bet. We do a bunch of prop bets. I'm going to lose the pistol to you, even though I'm going to win that map. So you better let me win round 3. Like, you don't even have to rig much. And in that scenario, how can you ever tell? Like, what, do teams never win their own map? Of course they fucking do, all day long. Like, there's so many ways this could be covered up. Richard Lewis, we talked about in the last episode, did an article that basically the gist of it was, you can't already stop fucking match fixing. It's already essentially impossible to stop. Well, now imagine that the companies who directly financially benefit, control, or have a controlling interest in these teams and players. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. And wasn't Na'Vi one of the companies also where it was implied, by the way, they even used the pretext of a certain world situation right now to like cut ties with people and maybe not even pay them? That was, I heard that behind the scenes. So it's not even like it's a company that hasn't got a history of dodgy stuff. Are you ready for one last detail? You can only do this when you're the esports historian. Na'Vi's already been implicated in a dodgy scenario like this. When the ES Force people, the guy from Uzbekistan, came in and he bought Virtus Pro and then he bought the media rights to Na'Vi, which, if you know how teams operate, just is essentially Na'Vi. Like, that's the main thing that makes them their money, is the sponsor opportunities, activations. He bought those for like $10 million or something mental, later sold it back. Also at the time, he was buying part of SK Gaming shares, and he owned, I think it was like e-gaming bets or something, e-betting or something, like some betting website, and he had Epicenter of the tournament. So he had a tournament, this happened, where SK and Virtus Pro, two teams this guy owned, played in the final of Epicenter, a tournament he owned, and you could place bets on the match, including him, and he directly profited from bets on the match with the betting company of that match. Now, again, a moron, like, so what are you saying? No, homie, you're so dumb, I'm not going to actually crush it all down into applesauce and potatoes. Come on, let the plane in, Striker. You have to figure out yourself, you clown. You're supposed to be a journalist, actually go and do your fucking job instead of asking questions on Twitter. Your job as a journalist isn't interview Richard Lewis on Twitter and find out what's going on. It's actually know your fucking job, know your role, stay in your lane. So in this scenario, they already have a track record of being involved with these dodgy fucking setups. Like, it's not like Na'Vi's some spotless org that we've never heard any of this from. So I think the whole thing, like you say, it just reeks to high heaven. Like, it can't be allowed, in my opinion. I don't have the power to stop it. Mainly has to be Valve who does, because let's be real, the ESLs of the world have no spine. But sadly, I do get the vibe like it'll just go ahead, won't it? It's just esports, mate.
I think that is it. I think we just have to accept that is it. We're still in that growth phase where it's just, I mean, it's not like there isn't corruption in mainstream sports either. there's always going to be corruption. There's always going to be these difficulties, but like we're not big enough yet to have like a governing body that actually determines it. And I guess, I mean, that is the thing. It's like who owns in esports, the developer owns the game. They can decide whether you're going to be able to dictate whatever happens in the game or not, as is clearly shown by Blizzard and Riot. Who owns football? It's like, okay, cool. You can have FIFA, and then FIFA decides, and blah blah blah. You know, you can go from there. So I don't see how you're going to be able to police this sort of thing in a real sense. And it is just another nail in the coffin in a sense of the integrity of the competition. But at the end of the day, are people going to care or not? Care enough and not to care enough to make a big stink out of it? It doesn't seem like that's the case at all. Because even like that article it hardly stayed on the front page of Reddit.
No one cared.
No one cared. You know, it's like I had to scroll down, and I still have to scroll down to find it. 628 upvotes.
Most people don't actually care about any corruption stuff. All they care about is drama. Like, no one really even cared when Richard put all that stuff out there about, like, or DeSoto did about the 1xBet sponsorship, that maybe they've gone bankrupt and you bet on a company that doesn't even have to pay you out.
Still sponsoring ESL.
No one cares.
Graphics,
yeah.
1xBet still gets shown on ESL, like live on the stream. Like I watched an ancient flyover, and they had put in like AR, you know, a 1xBet logo onto the map. You're just like, okay, then I guess this is still a thing. But then again, remember,
fire for you.
ESL understand how it works, because when they were consulted, when they were asked for comment about the 1xBet relationship, they were like, listen, it's just going to keep going forward, and that's all we're going to say. And they drop it because they know nobody's going to actually pay close attention to it and make a big deal out of it. They just know that they just keep your mouth shut, and it's going to blow over, and we'll just keep getting paid.
Just think about it. How could they even set that precedent at this point in time, Semmler? How could they do that without looking stupid themselves? Like, how can they go, Navi, isn't it a bit fucked up, you know, morally and business-wise, to be in bed with... But oh, shit. Like, remember, think about this. Not only are they in bed with the Saudis, but here's some fire I saved for you here. I actually also know the platforms of where to do the jokes now, Semmler. So you ready? Remember, this is the ESL, who at this point in time, it wouldn't at all surprise you if they were like, well, and now that we've got a break, we're going to roll some content that we've revealed before. Obviously, we're bringing out our new segment, Great Memories, sponsored by the US Air Force. And we're going to have YNK and Kassad take us all the way back to 1999 and celebrate the release of the CS of 1.0 beta. What did you think we were going to celebrate from that? Like, that's about how fucking disgusting ESL is as a company at this point in time. So, like, at this point, it is just par for the course to let some betting company just be involved. It's not like you can talk shit about betting companies. You've got your own fucking corrupt one, haven't you?
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have a leg to stand on. So at the end of the day,
if you know the reference about the 1999 thing, that was fire, by the way.
That is a fucking reference and a half. Well played. Well played. GG. Actually, I was okay. Totally unrelated. Do you know Callum from Lotus Eaters? He does some content.
Okay.
You know, and he went to Afghanistan. He did all this, but he just dropped this video about like Serbian war music, like war videos about them bragging about war crimes and shit like that from back when it was Yugoslavia and everything was blowing up. And you're just like, this whole culture. I want to message Yanko and be like, dude, is this legit? Like these songs? What's going on over there? Total aside, but that would be funny because Yanko's a fun guy when he talks about this sort of stuff. All right, but I think now's probably a good time to get into our GROGcoin questions, because we are getting on. We're getting on in the evening, and we are getting on in the episode. So probably a good time. I saw some more questions got added, so really cool about that. And if you're interested in asking questions as well, there's all the information on the Discord. So if you hop into the Discord, it's going to be in the chat here if you're joining us live, but also going to be in the description box in YouTube. But if you join the Discord, there's instructions in the GROGcoin channel into like how to get GROGcoin. It supports the channel, it supports the stream, supports what we do. And then also, you know, if you hold a certain number of them, then you get to ask questions. So here we go. Beezy. Where do you stand on the whole longevity versus peak argument for looking at who is better?
Okay. What do you think, Semmler?
Well, yeah, exactly. Like, does he mean in terms of like how is this? Because there was an article that came out on HLTV not too long ago where they tried to track again which teams
that was inconsistency was the premise. No, I think what he means is like if you're looking over history at like who was the better player or the better team, is it about like how good you were at your absolute peak? Like you were just insane for like 3 months or something? Or is it like if you were like 70% as good as that guy, but you were that good for 4 years? Essentially, here's the question, right? Is coldzera greater than Device? Because technically people would argue coldzera at his peak was better than Device, right? But Device had more years of being like top 5 or top 3 or something, right? So for you, like, how do you weigh that up?
Well, in terms of individual performance, I mean, longevity, I feel like, is harder in a sense because you have to keep reinventing yourself. You can have a peak where you can utterly dominate for a month, 2 months, but then especially as an opper, people start figuring you out, and then you have to be able to actually study and figure out ways to be ahead of them and to keep changing and keep evolving your game. So I would say that longevity is probably the more difficult one to achieve. And that's why I always had a lot of respect for Device, because he was always studying his game as well. He was the first guy to start using software like Shadow GG to try and figure out what other oppers were doing and how to stay ahead of the game in that sense, what the trends were on the maps and who was peaking where at what time and all that sort of stuff, so that he could try and stay ahead of the opposition and try and keep that longevity going, versus just like an incredibly hard peak where it's just like, yeah, you've had 2 months where you're utterly untouchable, but then you stopped evolving and then you got caught up and then you were never able to get going again from there. I mean, Config had amazing peaks, you know, incredible peaks, but then the longevity just isn't there at all with him. So yeah, I'd say longevity gets more respect from me than just crazy peaks, unless like you're really trying to time a peak for a major or something like that, where it's like a Cinderella story, just, oh my gosh, and then there you go, that you've achieved your goal and that's it. I feel like for the pros though, it's more about consistency over time. So I'd go with the longevity on that one. What do you think?
In general, obviously it's a mix of the two, but longevity is more important overall. Here's the thing. It can't be to the extreme though. Like, I'll give you an obvious example. So NBK probably played in tier 1 longer than anyone in the history of CSGO, but that doesn't make him anywhere close to the best CSGO player of all time because his peak was nowhere close, right? So as a result, it's not you can do one or the other. You got to have some combo, but I agree. Longevity plus being really good probably does mean you're the best player. That's why Simple really did just break the game, because he has the longevity and the insane peak. If it wasn't for Simple, I've said this before, if Simple didn't exist, right? So all we have is this, right? We have Get Right, and we have Olaf, and we have Kenny S, and we have Shocks, and we have fucking coldzera, and we have Nico, and we have Ziwu, and we have Device. Spoiler, Device would be the GOAT of CSGO. Because he has it all, doesn't he? He has the longevity, and he was at one point maybe the best or very good or number 2. So he would have combined enough of the two. He would be the GOAT. His problem is he can't overtake fucking Simple. I don't even know, actually, maybe even Nico, because he has the peak and the longevity too. A couple of these players have sort of got the cheat code on him. So I think certainly the peak can influence it, but you've got to have longevity too if we're talking greatest players of all time. This is why, though, I will say there are some sports where people just take that and throw it out the window. Like the obvious one, I'll do a video on this one day if you don't know, guys. I think the most overrated GOAT I've ever heard of in any sport is Khabib Nurmagomedov, the Russian fight. Because here's what people don't know, Semmler. He actually only got to like the championship level in something like the last 2 or 3 fights of his career. And even then, some of those people fell out of the fight, like Tony Ferguson. He had to fight people last minute who shouldn't have been contenders. So it means, yes, his peak is absurd. His peak is he utterly dominates people in a way where it breaks their spirit. They can't possibly beat him. And there would have been no point having rematches. He just wrecked everyone. But the problem is, someone like George St. Pierre beat everyone, whether he dominated them or not, and just never lost. He just won every fight for like 10 years, whatever. So, like, that's why, in my opinion, there are certain sports. Mike Tyson's another one. When people go, Mike Tyson was the greatest fighter of all time, it's like, his resume is nowhere close to some of the other greats, like Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali. Like, these guys fought all the greats, mate. These guys had all the fucking, like, they had the longevity and the record and fought all the champions there. Mike Tyson had it where, like, by the time he actually got to the level, if you don't know, where he fought the other great people of his era, Holyfield, he was already done at that point. Like, he was busted. Like, look, yeah, the peak is insane. He knocks you straight out, but he didn't keep it going long enough. So I will say there are certain sports I notice where the peak in some way overwhelms this discussion. But I do think in a game like CSGO, I think we get it right. I think people do understand that like Simple and Device have more greatness than a coldzera or something because they just got it all right.
The one that springs to mind obviously is Ziwu. You know, in terms of like, is he going to be able to have the years and
That's
years?
the question.
You know, he's
His
kind
peak
of
was
popped
mega, yeah.
in. I mean, he's had a peak and he's already been pretty consistent for a long period of time. So already, you know, props to him. Like, he is going to be considered in that conversation when it's had. But you know, it's a question of whether or not he's got like the Simple longevity or the multiple years. That'll be really cool to see. Okay. Architect of Korean esports based Joe. In the spirit of the Blast Paris Major, will we finally get the answer on who was in Paris?
I don't get the reference.
Okay, hold on. I just have to double check.
What's the reference? I don't know what that reference means.
Who was in Paris? Okay, no, I'm not getting it either. Shit, I thought it was something else. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh,
sorry, dude.
Right.
It's a whiff. Or did you get it?
I don't know. I think I do, but the problem is it's not funny.
It's not funny, and my jokes are not stream friendly, so we'll go off from there. Pacey, you can solve one problem, any problem you choose instantly. Can be philanthropic or personal. What do you solve?
Wait, what's the premise? You can solve one problem.
You can solve one problem, any problem you choose instantly. It can be philanthropic or person. What do you
right.
solve?
So you can make it funny. You can make it like a serious thing for the world. What would you pick for this?
Philanthropic or solve. Okay. It's something that's always okay. It's not always okay. This would solve a lot of problems. Okay, this is kind of like that. Oh, solve world hunger or solve poverty or whatever. Like I would just have everybody follow the 10 Commandments, because then if you had that as a baseline to go off of, you wouldn't need police, you wouldn't need armies, you wouldn't need any of this shit anymore. Like it'd be paradise on earth. If that was the baseline that everybody was operating on, so much of everything would be resolved. It would never, like, it would be Eden on earth, or it would be paradise on earth.
Here's the problem though. Haven't you actually opened an existential can of worms there? Because logically, God could have made everyone do that. He could make you a robot that only
you take away the free will. Exactly.
I mean, essentially, isn't the fact that people can choose not to do it what makes it virtuous to choose?
Yes, I know, but
that's the problem,
if you had it, if hypothetically everybody was following it, well, then it wouldn't be a problem. But you're right. Like that's the thing. That is the obvious next step. Is like, well, if you take free will out of the question, then are you doing it are you being virtuous or are you not? In this context, in this hypothetical thing, I'd just be like, yeah, no, everybody just follows the 10 Commandments and we're Gucci. Society will be amazing. There we go.
Here's what I would do. I would just go back to like September the 10th and I would just say, okay, Carlos, just put the phone away, mate. Listen, I know you got a good idea, but trust me, put the phone away. Now, let's get these rails done. Fuck them, and let's just none of it go. What stays in Dubai, what happens in Dubai stays in Dubai, Carlos, okay? Do we all agree on that? Thank you. No phones.
There you go.
I can do it light-hearted, can't I?
All right, Blaz, thoughts on the Greek god Apollo?
What does that mean?
I think it means it literally. Thoughts on the Greek god Apollo? He's a demon. I don't care. I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
Yasuke comes up next, so I guess Yasuke had the follow-up. Thoughts on the Greek god Artemis? What was Artemis? Artemis was the goddess of the hunt?
It was like a archer, yes. It was like a female goddess, I believe.
In ancient Greek mythology and religion, Artemis is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, wild animals, nature, vegetation, childbirth, care of children, and chastity. She wouldn't be super popular these days, at least in the West. For the last three, at least. Yeah. She'd have her work cut out for her in the West, at least these days. What do you think?
What annoys me about these questions is this. There's only two types of questions they ask, Semmler. There's the question where they go, what do you guys think about this? Because I've always thought that, like, actually it's bad and the way that they do it shouldn't be done and what they should actually do. It's like, there's the person who doesn't really care about what you think. They just want to give their opinion. Or there's the one like this, which is like, what do you think of yellow? Just the color yellow, what do you think? It's like, I don't care about modern art, mate. If this is like funny to people, then go. There you go. You wasted a question. Here's the thing. I'm going to answer your question with the energy you gave it. What do you think about it? I think it's a great goddess. That was the goddess of the hunt and chastity and children. There you go.
There you go.
Now, what you should have asked maybe is something like, what do you think the symbology of it means? Or what do you think the metaphor could be about? Or what aspects of the human experience does it anthropomorphize? You can ask all sorts of interesting. You haven't and I'm just going to give it up for free. You just ask a shit question, you get a shit answer. There you go.
Oh, there you go. Snake Gold, favorite tournament final, any esport, and why?
Oh, what's yours? Because here's the thing, you must have one that's not in CS. Is there some like Bloodline Champions shit that's like?
Well, actually, yeah, no, I do always think
on.
about Bloodline, the first DreamHack Summer of Bloodline Champions, because that was just epic. But that whole tournament, like to me, it's just like favorite tournament final. It's just like to me favorite tournament, because that was like the induction into esports, the
It's
real
a super niche
deal.
game, wasn't it?
Everything, well, it was also just like, yeah, it was back at that time, like we talked about this at the beginning of the game of the show, right, where it's just like there was a period of time when there was no money, you were just in it because this is what you wanted to do, and everybody who was there was just about it, right? It was super sick. And that first tournament, that first Bloodline Champions tournament, man, was just so much fun, because you're meeting people that you've been talking to for years online, and now you get to meet in person, you're partying together, you're competing. I mean, I was casting and I was blowing my voice out because it was like casting 12 hours a day, just no breaks, just you know, just going crazy with like co-casters like James and other guys popping in, but like just casting. Dude, I lost my voice for a week after that tournament. It was utter destruction. It was so much fun. So that will be like one of the fond memories that I'll always have, is that entire tournament was just so sick. For that reason, I mean, it was what kicked it off. And I think that was like right at that point where like Bloodline Champions, you know, it was like League wasn't really a thing yet. You know, Counter-Strike wasn't really a thing yet. Like it was all kind of like, you know, so I was trying to figure it out. It was right at that moment where StarCraft 2 was still the big dog in town. And then, you know, you had like you had CS, then you had the other games that came along after that. But yeah, it was those were fun times. What do you think?
I mean, that's easy. It's just the one I always say is my favorite match, which is it's the final of the IEM4 Global Finals, it was called, because that's before they renamed it like World Championships. It was in 2010, and it was between Rafa and Cooler, and it's just an amazing match. And the reason why it's a great game is not only was this match amazing, like in every map, the loser could have won the match, and so the loser could have won the game completely and been a different champion. But it also basically was one of those key pivot points in history where, like, if the loser, which was Cooler in this case, won, then he would have like instantly brought himself back to the top after years away of being the best, and all these years earlier when he'd been the best in Quake 3, like something meant like 7 years earlier or whatever, 5 years earlier. Like he'd not only have gotten back to the top of the mountain, which he never truly did in Quake Live, he always kept coming second and staying at that level just below like world #1. So that would have been epic for his career. But also when Rafa won this tournament, this was the one that like he had just won a couple of the early tournaments in Quake Live, and like he'd done well at one at the end of Quake 3. This was where he then became the champion and was the guy who was dominant and won many tournaments. And if people don't know, I always say it's the early matches like that set a one-sided rivalry. It's the early big final that you lose that makes you come second all the times and gets in your head. Or if you win, you break through and you're like, right, I can do anything. I can always beat. So that's one of those ones where it's like, I think if it had gone the other way, which it really could have, and this one's a brilliant game, I think it could have been a totally different Quake Live circuit.
Yeah, that's I mean, it's like you have to be willing to take the time to go back and actually track that stuff down, because it's not as readily available now. It's like, where are you finding the VODs for these matches? How do you even find the VODs for these matches? Are they some?
That one is on YouTube, but yeah, obviously the old ones used to be demos, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Exactly. Like you actually have to go through the effort of tracking down that sort of stuff to be able to relive that kind of history, right? And Rafa, yeah, always so much fun to watch. At least the matches that I got to catch, that I got to watch later on. He's still going today. That's the crazy thing, dude. Talk about longevity.
Also, one of the rare, very famous, outspoken Christians in esports and a champion.
Rafa.
You didn't know that? That's why his name's Rafa. It's actually from like Rafa Emmanuel or something, some like biblical reference. He is famously like a Christian in real life. Yeah.
I had no idea.
That's real. Yeah. Huh. And by the way, he's not a guy who's ashamed of it either. You know, he's not like saying it in every fucking interview, but he's a guy who absolutely has his faith and believes in it. It's gotten through hard times and stuff. Yeah, he's a super interesting guy, mate. And that's another thing. I'll tell you what, even though people on forums said snide things, I know you notice how they love to make fun of everyone who's just a pleb who's a Christian. But when it's someone like Anderson Silva wins, he's like, it's because of Jesus, man. You can't say shit then, can you? Yeah. Says what he did, he is the greatest. What are you going to do now? When he goes, all glory to God, you go, no, it's because of you, Anderson. How fuck do you know? How do you know what was going on in his life? And how do you know what hard times he might have gotten through in that scenario? That's the thing. People love to be ignorant about those topics. But when it's their heroes, they soon shut up because it shows they have no principles, mate. No principles.
It's the symptom of the times. Skazord, if you could force every single human on Earth to watch one movie, what movie would it be and why?
What's bad about these questions? Look, they're fun. These ones are at least fun. It's like I would never have the impulse to do any of these things. Like if you could just notice, they're all like little tin pot starlings. Like if I could force everyone to do what I want, it's like that's not even my gig, mate. Just let me do what I want and get the fuck out of my way. So go on. Is there a movie that you think is like so good everyone has to watch it, or something like that?
Yeah, Excalibur.
The 80s one, 1981, with like fucking, it's like the King Arthur and Legend. It's a banger movie. Like a lot of people haven't seen it. Oh, is it because no one's seen it?
So fucking
it's
amazing.
Super under like exposed, isn't it? Not that many people know about it.
No, that's the thing, and it's so epic, and like the shots.
Gabriel Byrne is the shit in that movie as well.
Everything about it, they just nail it through and through. It's terrific. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. I don't have many favorite movies like.
Don't let anyone tell you it sucks either. It's a good movie, I'm telling you.
Oh no, it's top shelf. I always recommend it. Excalibur, go and watch it. If you need just an amazing movie, that's the one. They really knocked it out of the park.
Oh, it's mega. Let me think. What would I pick then? Because I'll do something similar. I think I'll do the same thing, Semmler. I'll pick a movie that just people have never seen, and like the fact they haven't seen it. So I'll also do like that. Because here's the other reason you picked a good one there. Maybe someone who's watching this show will go watch it, but people are never going to revisit that movie from the early 80s. So I'll do a similar one. I actually gave this to my Discord the other day. You know, people who everyone in the world loves Christopher Nolan movies, don't they? Everyone knows The Dark Knight. And I mean, all of them haven't seen The Prestige, but The Prestige and Memento and and Dunkirk and Tenet, they all know all these movies, right? He's done all these blockbusters. But what they don't know is this. Christopher Nolan made an independent movie before he went to Hollywood in 1998 called Following. And if you like Christopher Nolan movies, it contains most of the hallmarks of how he shoots shots and how the plot is out of time. And there's different components that he introduced later that changes what you thought about something earlier. And the plot is quite intricate and clever, and it's got subterfuge, and it's got interesting dialogue. Like, the joke is, if you like Christopher Nolan movies, you're almost certainly going to love this movie, but no one's seen it, so I just make everyone watch that, I guess.
There we go. Perfect. All right. Let's see. IWD, please. Oh, yep. IWD every week. Please fuck my girlfriend. What are your thoughts on age requirements for pro players?
I mean, I can tell you, I actually wrote an article on this. Look, it was for on-gamers, so you'd have to like use the Wayback Engine or whatever. But it was called something like Riot's Magic Wand. And it was when Riot Games, it did a mad thing where they made it so that when they started the LCS, so in the time LCS was in Europe and North America, it wasn't called LEC yet. If you were in the North American or European region, you had to be, I think, 17 years old to compete. So famously, Reckless, who just got into Fnatic, couldn't actually play the first year of LCS. He had to sit out and play in like the secondary circuit with like Copenhagen Wolves, some smaller team. And then the next year he came into Fnatic and he became a great player, right? The reason why this was mad, and I wrote this article, is because it ignored so many precedents in history of not only good players, Semmler, who were under 17, people who were world champions, who were like the greatest players in history and were 15, 16, 14. And I actually pointed out that not only right at that moment was there a player in League of Legends who wasn't 17. It was the guy Uzi I, the Chinese AD carry, who went on to have an amazing career. He could compete in the LPL and Worlds, even though he wasn't 17. But Reckless, another player in the same position in Europe, couldn't, because they just capriciously applied these rules. And spoiler, let China do whatever they want. And then I made this point in this article that there's like, here's the problem, because the premise is going basically like, it's like sports, right? Obviously, you wouldn't let a 14-year-old play in the NFL, right? It doesn't matter how big you are and strong. Like, you wouldn't mentally be prepared. You would never be the best. In esports games, you can be the best. Cooler was the best player in the world at something like barely 16 years old. Avec beat Toxic, who was at the peak of, and was the GOAT of Quake 4 when he was something like 15. Cypher was in an ESWC final in Quake 3 at 15 years old. Some people are built different. And I do think in a game where you aren't just good, you can be the best. To say to that person, well, I don't know why, and this isn't actually a sport like a physical sport, but I'm just going to arbitrarily say you have to be 17 years old to be playing this game. I think that's fucked up. Flash, if people don't know, got to the semi-final of like an OSL when he was like 16 or 15 or something in Korea. Like, these guys proved they are capable of being unbelievably good. Life won the GSL, I think, when he was 15 or 16. Like, these people made... This is why this article was a banger. It just made Riot look stupid as fuck. But as you can imagine, this is how people always are. Some of the people are like, well, rules are rules. Like, well, that's the end of that discussion then, isn't it? Rules are rules. It's weird, though, when the rules aren't how they like it. They don't just go, well, rules are rules. You know, when someone goes, what about human rights violations? Well, rules are rules.
Funny how that works. Yeah. I mean, those are some really good points. To be fair, I hadn't put a thought into the topic for quite some time, so that was a really solid. I think I'd have to side with you after hearing those points. All right, moving on. Mini idea: what is the purpose of art?
That's not a bad question. Go on then. What do you think?
It is not bad. I mean, it's the expression of the human soul and the art of creation. It's what you're created to do, is to create, and beauty. Not the reason why the modern art now is just is a reflection of the times. It's not actually art. It's just a parasite of art that's kind of leeching off of it.
To me, modern art is just like memes, dude. It's like one meme based on another meme based on a joke that's never funny, and you have to know what 17 memes deep, deep fried.
The via pulchritudinous. You can look this up, via pulchritudinous. And it's the concept that that beauty is actually something sacred and divine, and that it brings you closer, and your soul actually craves beauty, creation, something like that. And so you're just drawn to it naturally, which is obviously why they then try to corrupt it with modern art and all the other horrors, so that they try to corrupt something that you're naturally drawn to, which is beauty. So I tie beauty to art, and that's where I'm kind of on it right now. What do you think?
I've got two angles on this. One, it ties back into what we talked about in a past episode. This is why it's not what do you think of AI art. There can't be AI art. Whether AI was computers or whether it's demons or some other intelligence, by definition, it cannot create art because it is not the human soul communicating an experience or a feeling about something meaningful. Because that's the key thing, Semmler. It's not that art is you get a technique and you produce this sort of an image or these sorts of aesthetics. No, I don't even think it's as simple as like art's just like communicating what you were thinking. No, it's why photorealistic drawing sucks. Photorealistic drawing is garbage. A camera can do that. What you want is someone's own drawing of someone where it shows a representation of how they see the person, not see in the literal sense what that person represents to them, what they feel about that person. That's the thing that only a human can communicate to another human, is what they felt about a thing, how it touched them, what it evoked within them, what it maybe inspired them to do. That's the purpose of art, in my opinion, because as you're saying, when you share that with someone and it comes from a pure place, and you're not a fucked up degenerate, as you're saying, it will literally lift that person's soul up. It will make them feel like, oh, these are the things that make life worth living. That's what's beautiful there. That's what's true. That is what's good. This is the thing that actually makes you think, with all the horrible stuff in the world, there is a point to it all, isn't there? This is what we're capable of doing. Meanwhile, as you say, this is how you know that you can't, from degeneracy, actually have a good life. Because people who are degenerates aren't happy. They aren't happy being drug addicts and sex addicts and being in terrible scenarios and fucking up their family lives and being frivolous with people. They aren't happy. If they were happy, it would be the ultimate lifestyle and everyone would love it and everyone would have an awesome life and no one would have a terrible outcome. It's the other way around. So in my opinion, you're right, that's why they have to corrupt art, because they want the opposite. I always say this, whenever I learn a piece of information, this is my compass as to whether it's legit or whether it was tainted and twisted. If it was tainted and twisted, even if I'm learning a fact about someone or some key piece of information, they'll leave out a detail that'll mean I'll feel like, oh, the world's just shit, isn't it? Or, well, what's the point anymore? You can't beat them, can you? Oh, I just feel degraded. I feel like, what's the point? Even if I find out a fact about something dark, if it's true and pure, then I actually feel like instead it's like, no, we can beat these fuckers. Now we know what's going on. No, this is exactly why we've got to avoid that. This, in fact, what I don't like about this pushes me closer to what must be good in the world, what is true in the world. It's a compass away from the darkness. So yeah, I think that's why art, that's the meaning of art to me, is like the communication of your one soul to another.
Man, there's so much there. Yeah. I think you've done a good job summing it up.
By the way, I'll even say, if you actually listen to your inner voice, that's how you'll know when something is legit art, because you'll get that feeling. You will say, like you say there, you will feel like, oh, this is everything brilliant about the world. You won't feel like, oh, it's cool, it's kind of a bit. No, you'll be like, fucking hell, this is incredible. It will actually touch you.
It's real. I think that's the thing that we're also figuring out now, is that craving for authenticity, that craving for the real. And there's when you're constantly surrounded at all times by facades, fake degeneracy, or whatever. Once you get that, like you say, once you get access to the real, to the truth, to the beautiful, like it's there and it speaks to you and it grips you and it just takes you. It transcends all of the bullshit, like you say, and it makes it something more. That's why we're drawn to it. That's why you are drawn to it, and why there's that thing like a gut feeling, or something like that, where it's like that's a real thing. You're conscious. It's speaking to you, and it's drawn to those things. Pay attention. All right, Toby, favorite nip fifth, i.e., Alu, Michaelele, Fozzy, etc.
Who are you taking?
I'm just gonna go with first guy that I think of is Fifth Lauren. I'm just going OG all the way back to the beginning.
Lopez disagrees, but all right.
There you go. I got the boy Fifth. You got to get the boy Fifth.
You know what? Even though, like, Fifth Lauren definitely has a good case, Alu might have even been the best of the fifth in terms of the player. The one that was my favourite, just because I thought it made a more exciting team when he played them, was Makalele. He wasn't even that, Alu was a better AWPer, but Makalele just brought something as like a spark factor to what was already a great team. They were just incredible to watch. I sort of wish he could have stayed a bit longer.
Yeah, it's true. All right, top five, it's go. Top 5 animated stop motion movies.
I mean,
I'm not big on
I don't have seen 5. I have got one I can give you, though.
Okay, I'm going to go first, though, because I'm scared that you're going to mention it. The one that I think of that always, when it comes to like animated, is Akira, because that's just so.
Oh
epic.
no, he said stop motion though. He means like where you move a model and then you take the next. You know what, Jason and the Argonauts, like the way those skeletons were. He means like that, like an old school movie. He doesn't mean like anime.
Well, I wasn't thinking in terms of anime. I was just thinking in terms of drawing or whatever medium, not real life actors. But okay. No, then in that case, I don't have a favorite. Sorry.
Oh,
I'm just bad on that kind of type of music.
No, I don't know loads of it. It's been a wanker even asking that question, but I've got one for you.
All right,
it's a movie from 1994 by I think he was from like maybe Czech Republic or Poland, a guy called Jan Svankmajer, and it was his version of Faust. The tale of the guy who basically what he does is he takes like a real life setting, and then when this guy goes into a fantasy realm, a la like Alice in Wonderland type scenario, he uses stop motion animation to make everything look really otherworldly and creepy, and has the like demons coming up, and people are like, we are in hell, and what are you doing? Like, oh, it's amazing, mate. Like, it's theater of the mind stuff, but like it's also really cool graphics. Like you would like this movie, mate. It's very interesting.
We don't know that. Hell yeah. All right, Hanoda, if you had to go back in time to live in an ancient civilization, assuming you can integrate into their customs language, which would you pick? I wouldn't want to go
What era are you taking?
No, it's dumb because it's like it feels ancient now, but I'd probably just go back 100 years, America 100 years ago. And just live in Los Angeles 100 years ago and just bask in like the glory of just
maybe a little bit more than 100, because you would be in the 20s when all like the finance crashed. So you'd have the same shit now. Maybe like 110 years or something.
No. Okay, like it would be 100, like 1920s, 1930s.
There you go.
You know, and it's like the prime time of Los Angeles, where like going into the 40s and 50s and 60s, dude, LA was the place to be. It was just sun, and it was booming, and it was just total boom going on in Los Angeles, and just the culture and everything. Like I would go back there because that's like peak humanity before the degeneracy, before the 60s, before it all kicks off, and but you're not going back in time to the point where it's like, oh, I want to go back to like Roman Empire where everybody was starving to death, and it was just like, it's like it sounds nice if you're like the emperor, then yeah, probably pretty badass if you're the emperor in Roman times. But if you're just a legionnaire tramping around, walking your feet to nubs and starving every day, like less cool. So if I had to like try and figure that out, I'd probably be like Los Angeles in the 40s or 50s in America. That'd probably be it right there. Like, what do you think?
I've got 2 answers for this. One, despite what you've just said, I am that meme where the guys...
You are going to go back to the Roman Empire.
I am the meme where the guy's got that fucked up first like, he's like, give me harder bowels, Jesus. And he's like, what the fuck? I'm already giving you... I would go like, I'd go like just being like a crusade or some fucked up shit like that. No, why not? Like, just take the hardest challenge possible and be as virtuous. Test yourself to the ultimate level. How far would you go for an ideal? I'd do something like that. And then the more serious answer, I say more serious because that's just the way I am, is obviously I'd go to prehistory, wouldn't I? I'd go back to like the fucking Atlantean era when we're all fucking psychically communicating with each other and it's like fucking direct access to the Godhead or whatever. Like, I'd go to some shit like that. There you go.
Okay, that's an interesting point. But then is it pre-Diluvian? Like, is it pre-flood? You're going back to pre-flood then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but that's when you have the hybrid, the demon human hybrids running around.
Okay.
It's just all sorts of.
I like the battle. I told you I'm built for war, homie.
Okay.
I'll be back there like Blade.
That's the thing is also like,
yeah, exactly. I know
your role in this sort of scenario as well, because it's like the reason why you don't want to go back to the Middle Ages is like it'd be sick to be a knight, but the odds of you being a knight are pretty fucking slim. So, it's like, do you just want to
assume we get to keep our information we know now or something?
Okay. Then we're just gonna get burned at the stake because we're witches.
You gotta be careful.
I was really like, careful, no, guys, please don't do that. They're like, boil your water first. He's a witch. That's exactly what would happen. I love it, dude. Okay, but that is actually. Could you imagine? That would be such a. Actually, okay, fair enough. I get you. Go to Atlantis or something like that before it sank. And
just do some arsehole shit.
On.
Like obviously the other joke, this is just a joke, everyone, don't get all but hurt, is I'd just go back in time to the beginning of time and then just go, give me that. That is delicious. That is very Moorish.
Okay, dude. Okay. So, okay, HDW. What player has the most reviled style of play in CS history?
Probably Jim. It's got to be Jim.
He's the
surely.
obvious one. He's the obvious one. All right, so yeah, he's the obvious one.
No one ever really hated on anyone as much as they hate on him. By the way, justifiably, he does have such a whack style play, doesn't he? Who else even is there that you can put in this category? That's the problem.
Callie?
I mean, people hate him mainly because he cheated, though, didn't he?
It is the style of play,
after
all. He's a cheating scumbag.
I'll tell you one that's actually probably, because the problem is there's no one who's on the level of Jamie, you have to realise. So if we're talking about style of play, I would maybe say, if you know how old school Zeus used to call, he also did what James does now. He just ran the clock down every fucking round. It doesn't matter, win or lose the round, the clock is going to like 10 seconds when they run in the bomb site. Like, I do know a lot of viewers did think that was boring as fuck. I thought it was great because he was a brilliant IGL, but if you want action, it wasn't like the most cool style to watch.
Oh, true. There was also actually in the chat, that was a pretty good one, an obvious one that we missed, but Happy.
That's not a bad one. Yeah, he was.
That's not a bad one at all. Actually, that's pretty bang on the money. I'm pretty. It's like James is just fresh, but Happy did catch a lot of flack. Yeah. All right. So Manakino, do you think Frost Giant Studios is going to allow and possibly support an open tournament circuit for their new RTS Stormgate, or have it locked down from day one with their own league? Short follow-up for Semmler, since you still play StarCraft 2, do you have plans for Stormgate content creation? I think that I don't think that they have the means. If I were to just venture a guess, I don't think that they have the means to run a league themselves or take it over the way that Riot and Blizzard do and all that. I mean, they're a startup studio, so if anything, I think that they would lean into ESL, PGL, one of the third-party providers to run a tournament for them. Face it, they'd probably turn to one of those guys to run tournaments for them and pay them white label the way that Apex Legends does or R6 does. They'd probably just outsource it to one of the third parties. So odds are it probably would be a company like ESL running it for them, because there's those connections with the Blizzard guys and there's the connections with the StarCraft 2 scene. So I'd probably go down that path. Would I create content around it? No idea. I'd have to see the game and play it first to see. But could be fun, actually, because I would love to play. I would love to work more with a 1v1 again, just because 1v1 is still just such a deeply satisfying format. Like, it's still so good. So I missed out on the Quake stuff, and then StarCraft 2 was too full. So, like, if there was another opportunity to work like 1v1 RTS, yeah, probably I would try and see if I could do something in Stormgate, because that'd be loads of fun. What do you think, Sporn?
I don't know anything about this game, mate. I haven't played games that aren't the games I do in years.
Yeah. No, it's It's the next. It's like it's getting a lot of attention right now because it's a bunch of the StarCraft 2 devs from Blizzard who split off and made their own game development, their own company, and are developing this game that they want to make, like the spiritual successor to StarCraft 2, really. So, it could be interesting. I haven't seen much gameplay of it. I really don't know what's going on, but I imagine if it's Blizzard people, it's going to be good. I watched the trailer, and it was just a bunch of chicks in the trailer in the future in like some space, like war-torn space, archaeology thing, and I'm just like, okay, fair enough. But that's just the way things are now. All right, BYN.
How many more are there, by the way?
3.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, BYN. Axile versus Electronic. Strengths, weaknesses. Which would you prefer on your CIS team?
The problem is he's also asking this because Cloud9's just beaten FaZe and Axile carried the series. So it's also like the top. I mean, I haven't watched the game. Obviously, I was doing the show with you. But,
I saw the second one of that
happened.
Carry the series? I mean,
he was like plus 28 for the fucking 3 maps, yeah.
Right. Would I have Electronic? I mean, I guess it depends on like the system because both of these guys I think are very reliant on their coaches, very reliant on the system that's built around them. And so like I don't think that you could just pick them up and put them down in a different team and expect to get the same results because Electronic has been married to Blade for years now, and Axile seems to run with Groove. So like which is better? At this point, I would just take Electronic, to be fair, because I mean he hasn't even experienced a drop off in performance while IGLing. He's so good with this system that he's got it thought through so clearly that even as an IGL he still clicks heads left and right. So I think I would take Electronic over Axile right now. What do you think?
I think it's an unfair question to Axile because he's too young in his LAN career. Like he's only played like 6 months or more like 9 months or 12 months of LANs. Electronic's played for years and years and years. Electronic's been in major finals and carried. He's been in loads of major finals. He's won loads of tournaments. Axile's barely ever been in LAN finals. Like so as a result, I think you'd have to ask this question in like 2 years, in my opinion. In 2 years, it'll be an interesting question.
All right, Archives of Justinian. Have any players had their careers ended from injuries? Well, I mean, apart from the obvious config joke. I mean, I know of like tendinitis or carpal tunnel fucking up StarCraft guys all the time. TLO, I think, was really struggling with it. MVP, I think if we want to talk about champions, I think MVP just got annihilated by it. His wrists are just wrecked completely. But that's not CS, that's StarCraft. But I feel like we ran into it much more with StarCraft because it's just so demanding and repetitive and so much movement with the hands at all times. And so I feel like those guys got hit a lot harder by RSI and that sort of thing. But one of them that I could think of was like MVP.
Basically, there's a concept a lot of people won't understand in StarCraft, which is you ever watch a StarCraft Pro at the beginning when all he has is his base and the first workers to go out. Mm-hmm. They still, all the Koreans are pressing loads of buttons and moving loads and clear. That's because what they learned essentially is it's the same reason you constantly move when you're in a fight, even if the person hasn't thrown a punch. You want to be ready to spring instantly like that. You don't want to have to do a complete wind up from the. So the same thing in StarCraft, what they're doing there is getting their APM up to the level they need to be at so that when they are producing all the bases and they are moving the army around, harassing you and scouting something to make us that they're already at that level that their hands are ready to go like that. So like that's like one of the reasons why yes, StarCraft by default, no matter what sort of game you play, is going to destroy your fucking wrists and wear you out. Like you'd have to do every exercise time, and remember they're practicing like 14 hours a day. So the real problem is this: no one's actually had their career ended, because usually if you were a great player like Guardian and Olaf Meister and the people who did injure themselves, even if you were never maybe the best again afterwards, you still played for 2 or 3 years. Like the problem here is it's not like NFL where like if you actually like wreck your whole leg, you might retire tomorrow, right? Because it's the NFL, you can't play anymore. So I think the problem with the question is it just doesn't really work in like CS that much. Like people still would try for years after the fact. There's definitely people. I mean, I think Olaf Meister's probably the best example ever. Olaf Meister, after he had that injury at the end of the Fnatic period when he was at Columbus, he was never the same player again. He was the best player in the world before that, if people don't know. He never ever got close to that level again afterwards. So I do think something fucking happened to him, unfortunately. But he had a long career, to be fair. He stopped playing the end of last year, remember?
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, now that you mentioned, I mean, yeah, it's really hard to put your finger on it. Like, who would be a player that had their career ended literally by an injury? I can't think right now.
Well, I mean, I can tell you a really, this is not a joke, but there's technically one, which would be the player 6, the German one. He actually died.
So yeah, he passed away. Okay,
that's one of the only ones I can think of where actually literally ended his career. He died in a car crash. People don't know. Tragically in 2010.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. That was the thing. Mouse Sports, right? Mouse Sports player. Yeah. All right. Last question. Slippy, what's been your respective memorable players' haircuts at tournaments? Yeah, there you go. I mean, Sponge's whole brand is based off of his hair being unkempt.
By the way, his hair, he doesn't even do that anyway. If you don't know modern day fans, Chad's, listen, I would guess because he's getting older, maybe he can't make the hair go like that anymore. Chad's hair used to look fucking banging if you go back to like 2015. Go look. It was a mad look. It looked fucking sick.
Yeah, he had a really good look. Actually, what was with the Australians? Because the other guy that springs to mind is Havoc, because Havoc also had like an amazing beard to go along with the hair. So like Havoc always had a good look too. Like,
he was years ahead of his time. He could have been like a fucking Manscaped rep or something.
There you go. Yeah, totally. Handsome dude too. Yeah, he could have definitely done it. Yeah, Sponge. I think Sponge for sure, right off the top of my head. All right, well that's it for the.
What about Anders? He had the same haircut of his entire life.
He has never changed.
It's not true though, is it?
Moses, if you want to put it that way, you go all the way back, dude.
Oh, he used to be a banger,
He had some locks. He looked great. All right. Well, that's going to be it for the GROGcoin questions, guys. Thanks so much for asking them. And, they refresh each week. So we've done these questions. Next week we'll be back. You just add some more questions and we'll be on top of it. We'll be keeping on it. But thanks everybody for everybody who's posted the questions, and thanks everybody who's been supporting the stream. Didn't do any calls this time around, but everybody who's leaving reviews, everybody who's leaving likes and all that, it's awesome. Really does help. And obviously, if you enjoy the show, you made it this long, subscribe because there's going to be more of them. But Thorin, thanks again, man. As always, a pleasure. And we'll catch you guys next week.
Chris is still in the picture. Still very much in the round. Oh, Chris, he's found 3. It's down to a 2-on-2. Chris, can he close this with an ace? Oh my God!
He gives him a chance at least, and this CZ kill could be everything. Finally, Zeus, he does something!
Looking for a second, he connects it. Oh, and he gets a third as well. Surely he's not going to pull this off.